OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
7:30 Friday morning. Good morning to you. OTB AM. Adrian with you. Nathan's here. Good morning to you, Nathan.
How are you?
What's happening? You got so much of a good thing last week. You were like, put me back in the big chair, coach.
Who knew it was so much fun? Who knew it was so much fun?
It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of good reaction last week. Not to too much you did, but...
What was the good reaction?
No, there was a lot of people supporting you in your bullshit argument about whatever it was we were having an argument about.
You were wrong once again.
That's just a general fact.
No, it's great to be here, though, as I arrived home from the Aviva Stadium at about 11:45 last night, frozen solid, trying to warm myself up. I was thinking the thoughts of getting out of bed at 20-6 are not appealing right now. But now I'm here, Adrian. Your beautiful face. I don't regret it.
We know you're lying now. You were at the Aviva last night. It was freezing cold. There was you and 18,000 others.
I was going to say, how do you know, considering you were prawn sandwiching it last night?
I was there, Nathan. Listen, I was there. I was making the point last night that being at that game last night is a bit like gives you O'Byrne Cup style kudos. Like it's... You know what I mean? I've been there through... I got my passport stamped last night.
So next June, when the tickets are floating around for the big games against Spain at Euro 2020, you're going, were you there against New Zealand? Yeah. Were you there that night?
But Dan McDonald was making the good point that there'll be... Take care about who you listen to in years to come, about who was there for Troy Parrott's debut, because there weren't many.
No, 18,000. I don't have a great issue when it comes to attendances for friendlies. I think people get wrapped up quite quickly. And what does it mean for Irish football? Are people falling out of love with the Irish team? It was a Thursday night. It was bitterly cold. And there's a big match coming on Monday. If
you'd have put out a team that was roughly close to the team that might play on Monday night and indicated that might be the case, I think it might have got a few more in the gate on the basis of, you know, let's go and see where we're at. How are those players getting on? As opposed to like this could have been a friendly in the middle of February. It was like it bears no impact on Monday's game at all.
No, they tried to create the buzz obviously by naming the team 24 hours in advance, and Troy Parrott is playing and Jack Byrne is playing, and hoping that would get a few more people in. But the fact that the conversation all week had been that this was going to be a totally experimental side, with little or no hope really of pushing their way into the starting 11 on Monday. Man, it was sort of an irrelevance, and it probably gave the players a little bit of freedom. I'd imagine they would have liked a bit more pressure in one way. They would have liked to have been going out thinking, you know what, I go out and I perform tonight, I've got an opportunity. But for somebody like Troy Parrott, Jack Byrne, those very inexperienced players, Lee O'Connor, being able to make your international debut sort of away from the spotlight, it's done now. So Troy Parrott's in. We don't need to have a big occasion next March of it's on.
Why wouldn't he have just left that unsaid yesterday or during the week? Why wouldn't Mick McCarthy have just said, here's my team to play, you know, you can see by the team this is going to be the team for the future, it's hugely exciting, let's see how they get on. Why couldn't he have just left it at that? Why does he need to go the extra step to say, doesn't matter how any of them play, none of them are going to play Monday night?
Well, I think it was more a reverse of that. It was, are we going to see the more senior players play? We saw a few of them come on for a few minutes here and there last night, but it was, actually, I'm going to hold back all my starting 11 as much as possible because they need to be ready to go. I can't take any risks. Anyone who I want to play on Monday night, I don't want out there for a full 90 minutes. And
even to keep the Danes guessing, just no requirement to do it. It struck me that it must be, from a player's point of view, like it puts a little bit of a burst the bubble, small bit of a couple of players making their full, more than a couple, making their full debuts. Like, just leave whatever, everybody understands the dynamic of it.
Well, if
like
everybody understands...
Troy Parrott goes out, the point, the cliche that was made during the Troy Parrott goes out and scores a hat-trick, what do you do? It bursts the bubble slightly to say, listen, it really doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to feature on Monday night.
Well, he didn't say they wouldn't feature. I think there were opportunities last night for them to come and show I should be the first one off the bench, and actually that'll be one of the more interesting aspects of who did that last night. Was it Troy Parrott? Was it Shawnee Maguire? Maybe it depends on how the game on Monday night develops. But everybody knows what the 11 is pretty much going to be. Even if he hadn't said that, realistically, I think the only players with anything to gain from last night in terms of pushing for a starting place were Robbie Brady, Alan Brown and Josh Cullen. That potentially Conor Hourihan's place in the team is up for grabs. He was dropped last time out. Brown came in. There's a spot on the right-hand side where maybe Robbie Brady was a contender. Didn't take that chance from everything Mick McCarthy said after the game. Callum Robinson comes on, was probably the best player for his 20-minute cameo. Certainly looked a little bit of a step above everybody else. I get what you're saying, and I would feel that in games like this, and I always feel this with friendlies, it never happens, that you would play 7 or 8 of your first team. That and this may sound crazy and ridiculous, like I think Seamus Coleman should have played last night.
I would 100% agree that you've got to get so
Seamus Coleman obviously is suspended from Monday night.
Yeah.
He was there
Yeah.
at the game last night. He's our most experienced player. He's the captain. He's not playing at club level. What can go horribly wrong? Now, maybe there's behind the scenes medical issues where they say Everton don't want him playing in an absolutely meaningless friendly. All of that. We don't know that side of things. But doesn't it give people a better opportunity to show what they can do if Seamus Coleman even is playing at right back? Would have been harsh on Leo O'Connor, who actually did very well. But if you're thinking about playing potentially Josh Cullen or Alan Brown, right, maybe you don't want Glenn Whelan playing 2 games in 4 days, but stick Jeff Hendrick in. Or put Conor Howard in alongside Jack Byrne.
Yeah, and also the fact that they get so little time together to actually try and gel and understand what each other's like. So little game time. Like, use that as the opportunity to. I understand, and it's great that like, and Mick McCarthy can forever say that he gave Troy Parrott his full debut and Jack Byrne, etc., and that's right and proper and fair play to him and all that. And that probably could have still happened in the context of putting out 6 or 7 or 8 of the team that are going to play Monday night by way of. Here's a bit of the plan, and let's go and see how we can play together.
The flip of that is, and having been down at the mix zone and talking to some of the players and just seeing the general atmosphere, an awful lot of those who played last night have been around the squad for the entire year that Mick McCarthy's been there, and because he's only had the 2 friendlies, haven't really been given opportunities. So they've come over for every camp. A couple of them have got a minute or 2 off the bench here and there, but really haven't seen a whole lot of game time. He's rewarded them by putting them all out there together.
Would use
and actually
and say F that. You
and
know.
actually it worked very well because now they're heading into a weekend where all those guys who went out last night, I'd say, are buzzing.
I know, but
they're
like,
thinking, you know what, I played well, we got the victory.
Mick McCarthy has to be more selfish than that and say, what is the best thing I can do here to help me get a result on Monday night? And like,
well, he thinks the best thing, clearly, and it's hard to argue against him with this because Denmark is the biggest game of the group. We win this, we go through. All Mick McCarthy was thinking, if I go out and I do what we want him to do there and play 6 or 7, somebody gets injured, and that is not worth the risk. He plays Dave McGoldrick up front. That is not worth the risk. Now, obviously, he's looking at certain players, like McGoldrick wasn't even in the squad last night, either with Shane Duffy, Matt Doherty, that they're 3 players who've had little niggly injury problems at the start of the season, so he was going to take no risk with them whatsoever. But that an injury suddenly to John Egan is something he doesn't want to countenance. Enda Stevens goes out there and gets a little bit of a strain. There's 4 days. There's no coming back from that. And he doesn't really have any backup. So that's clearly what he was thinking, and that was his priority, that come Monday night, the 11 he wants fit are fit. It does mean you're sort of clutching at straws, trying to take things from last night's game, and even looking through the various player ratings. And look, you know all about player ratings, Adrian.
Do I? What's the insinuation here?
Well, you know, anyone get a 3 out of 10 last night?
For me, I think the offtheball.com ratings are as cutting as they've always been. But it's funny looking around the papers. Josh Cullen gets the best rating in the Mail, Leo O'Connor in the Examiner, Shawnee Maguire gets the same as O'Connor in the Times, Jack Byrne gets it elsewhere. Like, there's a bit of fairly even spread of kind of 7 out of 10s.
It is incredible how people see the game so differently, and we've all done player ratings, and you're seeing certain things at certain times, and you stick it down. You're like, screw it, I'll just leave it there. Yeah. Who ultimately cares? As long as you're not slating somebody. As long as you're not going 3 out of 10 or 10 out of 10.
Never crop up again.
Anywhere in the middle. But to be honest, I barely even noticed Josh Cullen for the vast majority of the game, and then I heard people raving about him afterwards. One of the ratings there gave Robbie Brady a 7 out of 10, saying, grew as the game got on, probably Ireland's best player in the second half. I thought Robbie Brady was Ireland's best player in the first half and faded quite dramatically in the second half. So it was that sort of game. There was a lot of 5, 6 and 7 out of 10. Are we
player
taking
for
a
you?
huge amount? Best player from different periods, I think. As I said, first 10, 15 minutes, I thought Jack Byrne and Alan Brown were brilliant. Set the sort of right tone of getting on the ball, doing the right thing. Byrne, as has been sort of the case even at times with Shamrock Rovers this season, certainly when I've seen him in bigger games, and the Dundalk game is probably the Dundalk games are the ones you judge him most on. It tends to play very well for the first 15, 20 minutes. The difficulty is when teams then kind of figure him out.
Right.
Him maintaining that, and from what I gather, he's been under a bit of pressure at both club level and international level not to drop deep. That maybe his temptation when that happens, so gets to do what he wants for the first 15, 20 minutes. Teams sort of get a bit closer to him. His temptation is to go between the 2 centre halves, drop deeper and deeper and deeper so he can get more of the ball. whereas Mick McCarthy wants him a bit further up the pitch where he could do some damage, which means he can find himself a little bit isolated, doesn't probably get involved. So those two first 10, 15 minutes were great. Robbie Brady had spells during the game. After Seanie Maguire got the goal, brilliant finish. Suddenly he came to life for 10 or 15 minutes and was absolutely flying, central to everything. But the one who gained most last night was Callum Robinson, who I just thought when he came on was absolute step above everybody else. And if there was a question mark on that right-hand side, whether it was him or Brady or potentially even Callum O'Dowda, I think that's gone. I don't think there's any question that Callum Robinson will start. Now, he hasn't played like that when he has actually started the games. And to worry even on the good things that Maguire did, the good things that Parrott did, and that Callum Robinson did, they were all sort of more through a central role, whereas quite often when they pick the ball up in the competitive games, they're always out in the right-hand touchline or the left-hand touchline. Even the few times Robinson found himself out in the wing, just looked a little bit lost and uncertain. So when they're 25 yards out, central position, they seem to know what to do. But are they going to get to be in that position?
Yeah.
We'll hear from Alan Brown later, and he was quite honest, I think, in saying to him, like, that type of football was great last night, but
You never forget about seeing it again.
I was like, we don't see that come to competitive games.
So depressing, isn't it?
But they are totally different. Like, New Zealand hadn't played in 520
I know that, but
days,
like, Jesus Christ, why do we have this acceptance that when we go into a competitive match that we just can't play football? And like, I agree, the last place we're going to see it is in this competitive a game where the result is everything. Like, whatever about starting out in a campaign or building into it. But as Stewie said last night, was there co-commentary or some version of it at some point late in the game, which I'm sure had people tuning in their droves.
Wow.
Just to get that out on air. Not Stewie's input, obviously, or yours, but the general point of having it at all.
Wow.
That we've deteriorated as the group has gone on. So any notion that we're going to start suddenly seeing us play a bit of football on Monday night is crazy. But could we not show some sort of level of ambition to play football at some point, under sub-manager, soon, anytime, anybody, please?
Well, if only that was about to happen.
I mean, there's a lot of people, look, fair enough. Let's reserve judgment. Let's hope that's exactly what happens. Like, I mean, if Stephen Kenny comes in and we start to play football and the results don't start to go his way immediately, it's a different level of pressure that he's going to be under than he's ever been under before.
Right, we need to stop that conversation, because it's nonsense.
What?
What if Stephen Kenny tries to play football and results don't go his way?
Yeah.
The last 2 or 3 managers haven't tried to play football and results haven't gone their way.
No, but I'm saying that it's very easy that he might retreat back into a shell. Fair point, but like, how gung-ho is he going to be? He's not in a Mick McCarthy style scenario where he's going to knock a couple of years out and he's gone. I mean, that may well be what happens, but that's not how they're setting out. They're setting out that he's the manager for until whenever. So does he retreat into a shell due to that pressure and it isn't, with the best will in the world, to the clubs he's been at, anywhere near the level of pressure he'd been under before?
I would be shocked if he retreated back into a shell. But also, when people talk about a sort of revolution coming under Stephen Kenny, we're not talking about 4-2-4, all-out, Kevin Keegan style, reckless, abandonment, attacking football.
As much as we'd love to see that. It's
actually just the basic things we're talking about that good technical international teams do, which is get on the ball, pass it around. When you get possession, keep hold of possession. A lot of Dundalk's success over the last 5-6 years when he was there was built on their defence. Most of their outstanding players, a lot of the time, were defenders. But getting the best out of somebody like Sean Gannon, having a plan whereby your wing-backs are utilised properly in the game. Our wing-backs should be our best players because they're playing at the very highest level in the Premier League. We rarely, if ever, see them get forward. We can't believe our luck when they do. So I don't think people should suddenly expect some sort of crazy attacking football. I think what they'll see is a team who are encouraged and told, and without going all Giles on it, where Giles would say the problem maybe with Martin O'Neill was they're not told not to do it. So that's...
I'm confused. I know it's easily done, but...
So that when players, when midfielders, as will be the case probably on Monday night, aren't holding on to possession, that the manager isn't losing the rag with them going, what are you doing? You need to hold on to possession. It's, all right, we took the safe option. That actually, Stephen Kenny will pick players who respond to what he wants to do. So there will probably be, and without question, there will be issued, I would imagine, where there are certain players in that team who won't suit what he wants to do.
Stephen Kenny?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be the same with any manager, that there will be players who don't suit the system. But I've mentioned it before, I think the most promising thing with the 21s is that an awful lot of those players have little or no experience But when they're with the 21s, they're doing the right thing all the time. And I can't accept that the current crop won't want to do that as well. Regardless of respect, not knowing what he does, and I think they'll all be very well aware of what he does at this stage and what he's achieved. They'll be ready for what he has to bring in the training ground, and I just think they'll be crying out for a manager who says, go and express yourself and play a bit of football.
Yeah, well, it's not like Brian Kerr coming in a number of years ago where a lot of players at that time were like, who is this guy? I've never heard him before. Primarily because if players don't know who Stephen Kenny is now after a 2-year run-in, then that's on them. And also he's worked obviously with a whole pile of them and has achieved stuff as well. Beautiful programme last night, by the way, from the ground with that painting of the man that Nathan has just mentioned there a few moments ago, John Giles. I'm all for that kind of a moody programme. Like the player sort of Dave McGoldrick jumping up with a celebrating a goal thing doesn't really do it for me anymore.
No, the FAI
I want to see more of this. Programmes
have been brilliant for the last couple of years. They always go with something a bit arty.
Yeah, that suits you down to the ground. You'd be a real arty-farty type, wouldn't you? You'd be like, give me a museum. Most weekends you'd be off to the Irish Museum of Modern Art. You're not saying you don't do it.
Says your man.
Right, we've John O'Shea coming up to analyse some of that game. We do want to get a quick thoughts of Mick McCarthy here. He was talking last night about Troy Parrott's debut.
He stood up and sang last night, and he was double confident. He can sing and all, which is it's dreadful, isn't it? He can do everything. He's confident in here, stands up and sings. He can play football. Good looking. Hey ho, where did it all go wrong for him? No, he'll be all right. Will Troy.
He sung Stand By Me, apparently, which, I mean, he's got quite the vocal range there. So fair play, Troy Parrott. And we have had a comment in as well from the Robbie Brady on YouTube saying, if we try to play like that against Denmark, it'll be another 5-goal hammering. We shall see. It's 7:47 on this Friday morning. Here's a flavour of what's coming up between now and 9:30 with myself and Nathan. We're going to get stuck into the sports pages in just a few moments' time with more reflections on the football last night and plenty more besides as well. John O'Shea going to give us his thoughts on the game last night and probably more so look ahead to the crucial game against Denmark on Monday night. That is just after 8 o'clock. And more reaction from the Aviva last night. Our reporters were down there en masse, so we'll have plenty of reaction from the mix zone afterwards. We're going to hear the sports news at about 8:30, and then it's rugby a lot of the way after that. We're going to have Ronan O'Gara on the line. Obviously, he'll be making his Heineken Cup debut with La Rochelle over the weekend, so we'll get his thoughts on that, as well as the various dynamics for the provinces heading into the opening weekend of the Heineken Cup, and Alan Quinlan too with us just after 9 o'clock to continue that conversation. So whatever it is that's floating your boat this morning, do get your comments coming into us and we'll bring them to our viewers over the course of this morning. You're watching OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, on whatever platform it is that you're watching. We're delighted to have you with us. It's 7:49 and time for the papers.
OTB AM.
Going to kick you off with the Irish Times. We'll let Giles have a bit of a lie down there for a minute. Kick you off with the Irish Times, which has a photograph, obviously, from the game last night. And young guns step up to improve mood in the camp. Is the thoughts here of Emmett Malone from the game last night. That was the Williams goal there that's photographed. McCarthy doesn't expect any bolters for Denmark. This was the point that we've just been discussing there over the last while, and their player ratings as well. Leo Connor on an 8 and Shawnee Maguire on an 8. Were the two main takeaways there.
See, often timing is everything, so that when reporters are getting around to writing their player ratings, if you do something at just the right time...
Sure, they're impossible. How can you, like, legitimately rate 11 and whatever, 4 or 5 to come off the bench? It's impossible.
You don't need to tell me. I remember doing player ratings for the Denmark game away from home, and Dan MacDonald giving me dog's abuse when at 2 o'clock in the morning I was... telling him over a glass of wine that I still hadn't finished them. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I had them finished, but then Ireland scored in the last minute.
Yeah.
And I had to rewrite them all again.
And
to be honest, I just didn't have the time. Some of the things I'd said sounded ridiculous now, so, you know.
I break the habit of a lifetime.
That's the difficulty. The Star firsty work, which I'm not quite sure on. I guess it's because all 3 players scored their first international goal. Ireland rallied to survive Kiwi scare. We shouldn't forget that we actually went behind to this team that hadn't played a match in 520 days. Who did look pretty well coached, and
they look shite.
A few nice passages.
They looked shite. They were terrible.
No, I thought they'd put together some nice...
Before they scored the goal in the first half, I thought the best opportunity for us to get a goal here would be just give them the ball. They were that bad. They were brutal. They looked like as if they couldn't play it out from the back. They were awful. They would look like a team who haven't played a game in 560 odd, whatever the hell it is, days.
think you're being harsh on the lads there. You know? Weren't helped by the fact that, someone like Winston Reid hasn't played in 2 years at all.
Yeah.
So I thought they did okay. They weren't the worst team I've ever seen.
Up there.
HRI sanctioned club. This is going to be a big story, I imagine, over the weekend. Tom Malone, I'm sure, will fill us in on a bit more of the details. But Horse Racing Ireland has announced all registrations of horses under the ownership of Supreme Horse Racing Club have been voided following a persistent failure to provide requested information. HRI said it had consistently sought and not received the requested complete members' information for horses running under Supreme Horse Racing Club. Their entries were suspended last month. The syndicate is responsible for Cheltenham Gold Cup favourite Kemboy, but they're not going to be allowed to own or part-own horses registered under rules in Ireland. There's a lot in this story that we might get into a bit more detail with Tom. And Mateus wants Pep to return. This on the back of a couple of papers. Maybe it's just a quiet time and an international break. But Lothar Matthäus, who is obviously a Bayern Munich legend, wants Pep Guardiola back at Bayern Munich. That following the sacking of Niko Kovac. Guardiola, 2 years left on his contract at the Etihad. And just a couple of stories inside. The Star, Sean Maguire, talking about his goal and hailing the influence of Robbie Keane, says he had a halftime pep talk from Robbie Keane, very much telling him he was doing the right things. Keep doing what I was doing, keep making those runs in behind. It was the one time I didn't actually make a run behind, though Detroit played it back to me and I brought it out of my feet, and thankfully that's the one that's gone in. So I'm not sure how much praise he's actually giving. Keep doing that thing where you're running behind, but the one time I don't, I score a goal. So he was right, I don't know. And Eamon Dunphy probably taking very much the Adrian Barry line,
This is not a good day for me.
Just saying it for the sake of it.
Not a good look for my brand.
McCarthy's approach wasn't fair to the players. Meant we didn't learn as much as we should have.
What does it mean?
That basically throwing out 11 players who've never played together before, will never play together again. What the hell are we ever going to learn from it?
Sometimes friendlies are about that exact thing. I wouldn't have a huge gripe with that. It's more the timing of it. Like, that's what friendlies are about, putting out a bunch of players who are never going to play together again and looking for the ones who can sink or swim. But I just would question doing it on the eve of such an important game. The Irish Independent this morning, it's football obviously all the way here as well, including that line on the right-hand side there that you've been just mentioning about the HRI and the future of Cheltenham Gold Cup favourite Kemboy being in the dark, writes Thomas Kelly here after that decision. That's across a lot of the papers today. Here's to you, Mr. Robinson. Sheffield United ace puts gloss on Ireland win. McCarthy hails Maguire as Brady's Danish hopes fade. It's quite the mouthful there. Dan McDonald, Preston striker in contention for bench role on Monday after starring show at the Aviva. So Sean Maguire has put himself in the shop window.
And that's all they could have done. And I was talking with Stewie after the game about this. Like, there's obviously three different scenarios when we talk about substitutions in the last 20 minutes. One is that we're chasing. One is that the game is probably gone according to plan, which is it's still scoreless, or it's 1-1 and Ireland needs to press and try and score a winner, or one we're hanging on. And what scenarios do different players come on? Like Sean Maguire, is he actually we have a 1-0 lead and we just need somebody to run the channels, add a bit of pace? Or is he somebody who can come on and make an impact if you're trying to chase a goal?
Yeah, we've a 1-0 lead after 3 minutes and then we get beaten 24-1. Isn't that the way this thing goes? What do you think is going to happen on Monday night?
I have no idea.
Come on, be your
I
usual.
don't like making predictions. There's nothing to suggest we're going to go and win the game, aside from Denmark aren't all that. They're certainly not as good as they were 2 years ago. We've drawn with them, 3 of the last 4 times? And maybe we defend well and we scrape a winner somehow, somewhere.
Well,
score a goal from a set piece.
You've talked me around. I'm that motivation. It's the kind of motivation.
Yeah, you can't sit here and say, I think Ireland are going to go out and have a very definite game plan where they're going to control the game. They will hold Denmark off quite easily, and they'll get the goal that their play will deserve. Like, we haven't seen that. Maybe they will surprise us. Maybe this will be a conversation in 10 years' time where the players were on the bus on the way to the ground and thought, you know what, lads, this is our chance to qualify for European Championship. We're just going hell for leather into this for the full 90 minutes. Screw the tactics. Let's just go for this. I just can't see it. I hope that's what it is.
He brings you up to the cliff edge, gives you a look over the edge, and then says, no, come on.
I'm more confident than I was 2 years ago. I just don't think Denmark are anywhere near.
Right.
Like, they've been absolutely poxed to find themselves in this position where they just need a draw. Battered over in Switzerland. Battered by Switzerland in Denmark. I came away with
partly due to
away with 4 points from those 2 games.
Partly due to our own failings as well.
Well, obviously, the Georgia game is something they're going to have massive regrets about. The Sun, firsty work.
Where have we heard that before? Over there in the Star. I love the way you just read out the same.
I don't think I read it out.
I know, I had a surprise on your face. Oh,
firsty work.
That's a really good
I went from, I don't get that, to, that's a really good headline.
That's the best insight into Nathan you'll ever have.
Derek, Shoney and Callum get up and running. Mick McCarthy heap praise on Sean Maguire, Derek Williams and Callum Robinson. And inside in the Sun, they have Parrot Watch.
Oh, I love it.
So, goal threat. What do you think you got out of 5?
Out of 5, I'd say 3.5.
That didn't go halves. Come on, they kept it quite simple. 3 out of 5. Correct. Best side of goal was on 58 minutes when he was slipped through by Sean Maguire, but the keeper was on to him in a flash. Movement.
Good stop that, actually, to be fair. That was a good stop. The keeper got movement. Great movement. 4 out of 5.
Have you read these?
No.
4 out of 5. Constantly on the shoulder of the last defender. Presence.
Great off the shoulder.
Presence.
Super presence. I'd say again 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5, correct. The Irish players knew constantly where he was.
The whole stadium knew where he was. Nerves. Didn't look that nervy to me. I'd give him. Are we saying he had a lot of nerves, so he's a 4 out of 5, or he had not many nerves, so he's a 4 out of 5?
I would say 1 is very nervous, 5 is not nervous.
I would say not that nervous. They're probably going to give him a 3, but I would have said 4 out of 5.
They gave him a 5 out of 5.
All right, fair enough.
And sorry, I should have mentioned that 1 out of 5 was sick as a parrot. 5 out of 5 was who's a pretty boy.
That was the key to the whole thing.
Who's a pretty boy?
All right.
So he got 5 out of 5 for nerves. He stood with his hand on his heart for Aaron Levine, which showed how much it meant to him to play. And then he played as if it was a kickabout with his mates. Parrott never looked overawed, always showed for the ball, and was anything but hesitant when he got it.
Showed the viewers the photograph. This is the kind of...
Oh, sorry, we should mention that, yeah.
He's really got this one back to front.
He's
in a cage.
He's in a cage.
For people who can't see it, give us a full description there. Troy Parrott
in a cage with his arms raised and Parrot Watch. Sick as a parrot, or who's a pretty boy? It was decided that he was a pretty boy.
Well, that was a successful item. The Irish Examiner this morning, Maestro Maguire is the thoughts here. Preston striker, that stunner to get off the mark for Ireland. More reflections on that game inside as well. Ronan O'Gara, Munster have been underachieving. It's time to shake a leg. We're going to get Ronan's thoughts on that in a little bit later on as well. Another interesting line inside here that's on a few of the papers today is in relation to Kerry and their chairman Tim Murphy, who says counties should be allowed to negotiate live coverage deals directly with TV companies. This was on the back of the decision that they refused to have their county final shown on live TV. There'd been apparently an offer in from TG Carr via the GEA to televise Sunday's East Kerry Dr. Croke's senior football final. And the Kerry County Board said, no, we ain't having it because we're not getting properly compensated for it. He says he figures that, he said, when we built their centre of excellence, we promised the clubs they would never be levied for any outstanding debt. And so to forgo 40 grand, as he sees it, on Sunday, would not have been a sound commercial decision. So that's what happens. The GEA, there'd been a deal in place, or is a deal in place, that they would be given €5,000 from Croke Park to compensate for the loss of gate receipts from match broadcasts. And on the one hand, I think that individual counties negotiating their own TV deals is actually a really sound and solid idea that would be a really heavy, obviously, commercial winner for them. He does also, by the way, on the one hand say, showing these games live would not be good for our gate receipts, so that was just a bad decision for us. Bad decision. So we shouldn't have done that, and we won't be doing it. By the way, we are thinking about streaming these games live ourselves. Sorry, one goes slightly counter to the other. But the only other thing that I could think about is that it will make the better teams better, is one of the difficulties here. I mean, I don't know exactly what sort of money we'd be looking at over the course of a club calendar year and how much money could be made out of it. But the games that are going to be in most demand are going to be from the most high-profile counties, which is going to make the best better and further that gap between the weaker teams.
Yeah, the attraction of watching these club games isn't necessarily the rivalry between the two teams. It's watching two sets of county teammates go head to head. So it's watching Brafey against Ballintubber and watching the O'Sheas go up against the O'Connors. That's the type of thing you want to watch. I do think if they're going after a separate TV deal, how much money is in that? Well, firstly, as you say, it just totally contradicts what they've said. So streaming is different because what they may be saying is, all right, listen, we want people to come to the games, and we're not going to have it on RTE or on air where people can very easily watch it. If people are desperate to watch these games online, they can pay a subscription.
Shy quality game online.
Who knows? Maybe the quality is perfectly fine. But they're giving them that option. Whereas on the television side of it, also, like, aside from the county final and county semi-finals, like, who are they selling the TV rights to? If the counties individually.
Well, also the value individually, exactly, would be, I think, a difficulty. The power of collective bargaining, obviously, is you would think outweighs. But I mean, it doesn't mean that they can't go back and have a look at the T's and C's of the deal that's in place at the minute. We're under strict instructions here to flitter through these newspapers and get a move on.
The London Times, a grand way to qualify. No Sterling, no problem as Kane's hat-trick in England's 1,000 game secures place at Euro 2020. England's 7-0 win over Montenegro. The big talking point still, though, Raheem Sterling and Joe Gomez. Gomez was booed by the Wembley crowd as he came on, and Raheem Sterling sent out a tweet. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure. Matt Dickinson very much backing Gareth Southgate, saying he deserves the benefit of the doubt over his Sterling decision.
The Irish Daily Mail today has that racing story down here from Owen O'Brien, and then Philip Quinn at the Aviva last night, raring to go, but Mick cools Brady's hope of Denmark's start.
And the Guardian, Kane's Grand Slam, England roar to victory in 1,000th match to seal place at Euro 2020. It's a really good piece inside as well on Diego Maradona, how Maradona made it as a manager in drug-hit Mexico, obviously raising the question of how a one-time cocaine fiend found himself in the cocaine capital of the world. That's what they're talking about. There's a new 6-part documentary on Netflix about Maradona. I saw it come up the other night, but I presumed it was just the actual documentary that was out.
Yeah.
But this seems to be a separate Netflix production.
There's your weekend plan, Nathan, sorted. What else have you got for us there?
The Mirror, finally. Flipping the bird. Makes second string come from behind to beat Kiwis.
Oh, yeah. Kiwis. Bird.
Oh, my God.
It's a good one.
It was a tough night.
It's up there with Firsty Work.
Firsty Work.
Is that us?
I'm done with that.
Right, that's it. We've John O'Shea coming up to pick through all of that action last night, and as well to look ahead to Monday night. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to hear Sean Maguire's post-match comments after his first Irish goal, and John O'Shea on the line.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio. Off the ball.
Salah takes the shot. Oh, Mo Salah with one of the goals of the season. 25 yards out.
If you throw your lot in and play senior international football with somebody, that should be the end of it.
That's brilliant. Oh, my goodness me. You will not see a better try.
Who will be All-Ireland champions? Who will see their dreams turn into reality? Whose names will be etched in history forever?
OTB Live. Never miss the action right here. Every Saturday and Sunday on Off the Ball.
OTB AM.
Sean, you had that header in the first half, the flash just wide, and then you scored 6 minutes in the second half. How did it actually feel when you hit the ball and you knew it was in?
Yeah, it's not really a type of goal that I normally score. I think the two chances where I got in the first half, they're the type of goals I score all the time. To get that one where it just comes out of my feet, and I said, I just gotta hit it. And the moment it's just left my foot, it's gone into the back of the net, and all them emotions. I made my debut two and a bit years ago, and to finally get that goal tonight is, a dream come true. It's that weight, lifted off my shoulders, and as I mentioned there, now it's a massive game on Monday where we need to get the 3 points.
You obviously players on the way to celebrate before the ball hits the net, after they've hit it. Did you know as soon as you whacked it that it was in?
Yeah. I've hit it sweet. I felt that I had to take it, a good touch out of my body and put it into the top corner. Normally I have a celebration or two with me, but tonight I felt that, just as I mentioned there, all emotion and one more. You're scoring for your country is what you dream of doing when you start playing football from a young age, and I'm really delighted I scored tonight.
I've never been a fan of Sean Maguire's hair. I'm just going to put that out there. What's he doing?
I'm not quite sure. Like, is it just he's comfortable with whatever way it goes?
It's like a version of a Sean Penn hairstyle.
That's a very good comparison. But sometimes he goes with the real slicked back.
Yeah. The slick back even looks a bit, maybe we caught him on a bad moment.
He's too much hair for his head, I think, is the problem.
Now we're into some proper deep analysis.
I think that's just the problem.
Look at it, like...
He's quite a small head, but he has an awful lot of hair.
The hair seems to take up twice the size of his head. It's a bad hairstyle. I mean,
well, it's the one. Stewie Byrne was talking last night about, what singled out the talented players back throughout the ages of, once upon a time wearing your jersey out was you were the star number 10, and then it went to white boots, and then it went to luminous yellow boots. Like, now they've nothing. Then you look out there, who's the main guy?
Ludicrous hairstyle.
But every single one of them have the exact same haircut.
John O'Shea, have you any thoughts on Seanie Maguire's hairstyle?
Lads, he's just got his first goal for Ireland.
Well said.
He's waking up this morning delighted with life, tunes his like, now.
But John O'Shea is bringing some sense to proceedings, so we do appreciate that. Fair play. Who stood out for you last night?
It was a big night for Waterford as well. Waterford played a part in all those goals for Ireland last night.
All right.
Leo O'Connor.
This was not something that many other people had given consideration to, John.
Yeah, well, that's what you have to remember. Leo O'Connor with the assist for the last goal. Seanie Maguire played for Waterford United, and Derek Williams is a Tremor man, so all played a big part last night.
What do you think of Leo O'Connor? Because some of those names you've mentioned, actually, looking at the spread and talking to people last night in terms of the players that stood out for them, there's seems to be a lot of 7 out of 10s. Leo O'Connor particularly was one of those players who stood out. How did he do for you?
Yeah, look, he really enjoyed it. I would have hoped he kind of got involved a little bit more attacking-wise, because Robbie, obviously ahead of him, was checking back in onto that left foot of his from the right-hand side. But I think Lee was probably thinking, well, look, I'll let Robbie get on with it as well at times, But he was very comfortable. You could see at the start a few raids down the right-hand side and very comfortable on the ball. Defensively, a few times you would have been hoping he got closer to at times it was the fullback, New Zealand fullback, bombing on as well. But all in all, for a debut performance when you've not played yet for your club first team, it was very, very promising.
There's some debate about the team that was picked last night, John. Obviously, I think that nobody'd argue with giving the opportunity to a bunch of the younger players. The future, I suppose, of Irish football is the right thing to do. But whether it was the right thing to do on the eve of such an important game as we have on Monday night, if you were coaching that team, if you were in charge last night, would you have gone that way, or would you have leaned in the direction of trying to get a bit more of a gel between some of the players who are going to play on Monday night?
No, but I would have saved every ounce possible of energy that's going to be needed for Monday night for that starting 11, because that's the one thing that we showed last night with the freshness of some of the players, the energy that we were able to put high up the pitch on the New Zealand defence and win the ball back up high. So that could be hopefully a theme for Monday evening, that we're going to press Denmark as much as we can high up the pitch to create that atmosphere that we need, and obviously then to create chances that we need to win the game.
Expectation is that Mick McCarthy has definitely abandoned the 3 at the back idea and probably will go with a very similar system, the way you're talking about it, and hopefully with that sort of high press against Denmark. Looking at the probable team then, the one position that it felt was up for grabs was maybe on that right-hand side of the front 3, and Robbie Brady was given the start, he was given the captain's armband, and obviously hasn't played a lot of club football. Did he do enough, do you think, to push himself ahead of Callum Robinson?
It's, for me, if Robbie is picked in any position, whether it's on the left-hand side, left back, or the right-hand side, he's going to be more than ready, especially for a special game like that. He has the quality. Yeah, he's probably lacking just that little bit of match sharpness, but that game last night would have obviously helped. And you think if it, as I said, that one-off occasion for a game to qualify for the Euros, he could definitely play a part in it. But it looks like when he's played the whole game last night, so you kind of might be thinking he might be on the bench, but let's wait and see. You wouldn't like to second guess Mick.
No, and he was talking last night about Troy Parrott as well, Mick, and he was saying welcome to men's football, and like he looked so assured and at home almost for a guy of his age. It was incredible, really. A bright future for this guy, and looked very much at home at that level.
Yeah, it was just hoping he had a slot at that kind of chance he got in the second half when they broke away. Jack Byrne playing it out to Seanie Maguire, and then Seanie Maguire slipping Troy in, but he tried, I think, to put through the keeper's legs, and good save as well. Maybe a little dink might have been the better option, but you could see physically he was well up for the challenge, and the amount he would have learned from that last night too, playing against obviously an experienced Premier League defender and Winston Reid. He was had a few little clashes with him, and I think he learned his lesson from the under-21 game. He walked away from a few of them too, so he knew not to get involved, and it would have been a great learning curve for him as well.
We've obviously played Denmark numerous times now over the last couple of years, and maybe the one thing we haven't actually done is what you were talking about there, is that high press where we really don't let them get out of their own half easily. By and large, we've let them sort of dominate the ball and try and catch them on the counter-attack and try and maybe nick a goal from a set piece, and sometimes it works, sometimes it hasn't. In a game like this, on a do-or-die match, packed out, sold out Aviva Stadium, is that very much the game plan Mick McCarthy should go with? High energy, push at them, or does that pose its own risks in terms of maybe where Christian Eriksen might suddenly find himself with a bit of space if so many Irish players have pressed forward?
Yeah, well, it's the timing. It's the timing of when we do it. You're looking at obviously goal kicks, certain scenarios. There'll be triggers to maybe let Kasper Schmeichel play the ball out and then press from there. But as you said, that's the caution that you have to play. So that's where that holding midfielder, shielding in front of the back four, will play a key role. And if we do have that high press, he's got to be the guy reading the game to cut out those balls that they are looking to find Eriksen and in those little pockets in behind the midfield, the other midfielders that have gone up high to press as well. So it's that balance, and you're looking for, because you won't be able to do it for the full 90 minutes as much as you'd like to. That's where the key, and when you're going from that high pressing game to a low defensive block where everyone's back in shape and making it very hard for Denmark, we're going to have to do that at times on Monday night in the Aviva.
I think Irish fans are concerned, John, obviously, about Monday night. I think that partly to do with the point that Nathan was making there about our recent record against Denmark and what they've done to us, and maybe they aren't that same team anymore. And I do think partly as well that Stewie Byrne was making the point of co-commentary for us last night that Ireland have deteriorated as the group has gone on here. Have you seen progression under Mick McCarthy as the campaign has gone on, or does it give you cause for concern as to where we're at heading into this one?
No, it's all Mick as he's spoken about many times.
Yeah, we'll just give you a shout back there, John. Just that the line has gone to hell. We'll just drop it out there and we'll come back to you in a couple of moments' time. The thoughts of John O'Shea after the game last night, and obviously very much looking ahead to Monday night. Do keep your comments coming into us. There's been some coming in here. Lads, will you cheer up? It's Friday, not Monday. Let's get behind the boys for Monday, says Kevin Callan. I don't know if he's saying it's Friday, not Monday, so be positive now and then start shitting yourselves come Monday. Like, what's the general tone of that? Ben Boyle says, start Maguire over McLean.
I don't think it's going to happen. James McLean, I think even that equaliser at home against Switzerland, where he played that late ball into Dave McGoldrick, probably showed Mick McCarthy enough that that was right at the end of the game and he was still the one who got back and won the ball. And I don't think McLean's position is really under any threat heading into this game. I do like what John was talking about there, though, about hopefully what we saw, that high press, because I think it gets the crowd up as well. That actually, if you can nick the ball even once or twice off one of their centre-backs or midfielders in their half, it just sort of changes the atmosphere in the stadium.
Yeah. All right, I think we might have John back on the line, so we're going to touch base again. John, hopefully we have you back there. Just sorry, we missed out that entire piece from the start, just in terms of Mick McCarthy and where we're at for Monday night and any progression that you've seen over the last number of games.
Yeah, well, look, progression in Mick's eyes will ultimately be judged on qualifying. You saw some of the football, obviously, we were playing last night in the first half, where everyone's confident, knocking it about. But then again, you remember you're playing against New Zealand. So will other teams allow you that comfort of having that bit of possession? It's going to take time. Mick was tasked with obviously getting the chance to qualify for the Euros that we're partly hosting as well, and we have a chance on Monday night to win a game to be in those Euros. So I wouldn't say it's progression, but it's if we get that result against Denmark, there'll be a lot of people very happy.
What were you like around these sort of games with the national team where huge nights, sold out crowd, there's obviously pressure, maybe it's good pressure because there's so much at stake and there's such an opportunity to achieve something and to be a part of something that people remember for years to come. Were you very calmed? Were they days you enjoyed, or were there a lot of nerves because you didn't want to let people down?
Yeah, mixture of it all really, but ultimately that excitement and adrenaline was the overriding emotion. Once you got the annoyance of sorting out tickets for family and friends that were popping up from left, right and centre looking for tickets, when they were suddenly sending you a message out of the blue, you knew what they were looking for. No, but once you got all that sorted, then that's the thing Mick will be concentrating on, and obviously Terry and Robbie as well behind the scenes. They'll have gone through this occasion so many times, and so will a good few of the team, so they'll be ready for it. They'll know what they expect, and hopefully they can rise to the challenge.
You're obviously over in England, I presume, on Monday, so you probably have a few tickets going spare, do you?
No, I'm going to come over and I'm doing the co-coms for Sky Sports, so I'll be part of a special night, hopefully, in the Aviva.
Speaking of special nights, 18th of November 2009, John.
It is. Oh, I think you're talking about a certain game against France, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Nearly at the 10-year, unbelievably, the 10-year anniversary of it.
Yeah, incredible. And if only we had that thing that everyone's giving out about, that VAR.
I know. Do you ever think if you were on the pitch at the time you'd been subbed off at 67 minutes that it wouldn't have happened?
Look, no, you can't think about stuff like that. Even the more annoying thing for me, when the injury that I got was kept me out for the longest spell of my career as well. So I was out for 3-4 months after that game and after that playoff game in Paris. So I had a long time to dwell on it and think about it. So, but look, that's one of them things. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years already.
Were you watching on from the bench then at that stage, or were you in getting treatment?
Yeah, no, I was watching on from the side of the dugout with an ice pack stretched on. So, and I think even I had about 5 or 6 kind of bodies blocking my view, but I still managed to see a handball. So I still don't know how that linesman didn't see it.
Oh, it's unbelievable, yeah. And there was, I know, because had you spoken to John in the mix on afterwards?
Possibly. I know I spoke to Kilban afterwards. Very angry Kevin Kilban. It was the angriest I've ever seen any players, understandably, in a mix-on. Usually players are very good at keeping their emotions in check and just sort of, trying to get through the mix-on without saying anything too controversial. Like, this was just such a disgrace. I think everyone was like, we're just going to absolutely let loose.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Yeah, but look, fingers crossed we won't have any decisions like that to worry about on Monday evening.
Yeah. No, listen, thanks for all that, John, and enjoy the anniversary. I know that's not might not be your exact outlook. Enjoy the game on Monday night. Thanks a million for taking the call.
No worries, guys. Take care.
John O'Shea, thanks a lot. On the line there, looking ahead to Monday night. You have a special on Sunday?
We do. We're going to be talking to Kevin Kilban, Shay Given.
I'm angry, Tony.
Reminiscing about...
Is he still angry about it? Great to hear him on, by the way. I haven't heard him on in a while.
Kilban?
Yeah, I didn't know if he was still here.
Well, he's busy. He's. I was talking to him yesterday. He's shattered due to his constant training.
There's people who have actual work to do.
Spending several hours a day on the ice. An aging body.
I thought he was better than that.
An aging body. Have you been following his Instagrams? I know you're probably like me. You flick through as quickly as you can.
Oh, listen. One of his mates who said the other day gave him just a bit of advice to keep them short. Like, he's a mate he should keep close.
Yeah, Mark Chapman. Chappers. One of the greats. Come on. You can't just say, if Mark Chapman talks, you listen.
No, I'm in agreement. I'm saying
he's already seeing the benefits, though.
Awful track.
So obviously this is going to bring Kilban to a whole new level of stardom.
Right.
Very much probably B-lister, unless things go really well. And
Jesus, that is a rise.
That's what I mean. He can force himself into the A-list. But he's pretty close. He was out, did you see this? He was out on Wednesday night.
I wouldn't have seen this on you put it in the WhatsApp group.
So he was obviously at ITV do these sort of musical specials.
Sorry, go on, tell the story.
They do these sort of musical specials. And it was a very ITV musical special, you could tell.
Musical in large inverted commas.
Tom Jones and Ollie Murs were on stage, and they get all those, reality TV stars are front and centre. They might have 2 or 3 very big names. I don't know if they were asking questions from the crowd. Oh, Tom, tell us about the glory days when everyone was throwing their knickers at you. And Tom tells a hilarious story. And Ollie Murs goes, oh, it happens to me now. Ah, hilarious. Kev was sitting in the second row, right behind Simon Cowell.
Wow.
That's where he is right now. Is it any wonder he's not in here with us? When those are the opportunities that now present themselves to him.
When you put that into the WhatsApp group to begin with, I thought it was your photograph. I was like, oh, good man, Nathan, fair play. And then I realised it was Caban. I was like, what's he doing? I thought you had piggybacked in Caban stardom to get yourself like front row seats for Ollie Moores. Yeah.
No, I didn't. Typically, see, he's left us behind.
Yeah.
Oh, once upon a time, there's something good happening. You're going to come along, lads. Now it's...
Sure, you can't even get him into the office now.
No, but yeah. I get the sense listening to John there, and understandably so. Players probably do get very pissed off at how negative we are about this. Like, the players in the squad, players who played...
What are we negative about?
Like well, certainly that there's not much hope maybe for Monday night.
But sure, what would be? You'd be crazy.
But listen, we're at home in the final game of the campaign, knowing a win qualifies us.
But it's not our job to be positive about it. It's our job to be questioning about
realistic.
it. Like, I know there's this great wave behind the sort of fake news media and the cynical attitude to media these days. But it's not our job. Our job now is not to get behind that team. It's to be questioning.
The way he talks about it, though, of like. The get out of criticism for Monday night, I think, is that game plan he talks about.
Yeah.
High press, high pressure, a lot of energy. Like the old put him under pressure, not the long ball that went with it, but not giving them any time in the ball. Gets the crowd behind you. And listen, if they come away with a 0-0 draw, 1-1 draw, but we've made life difficult for them, you put your hands up and go, all right, and there's a bit of positivity going into the playoffs. If they just sit back and let Christian Eriksen run the show again, and this ends up in a 2-0 home defeat, and you're having to go to Wales or Slovakia for a playoff in March, that'd be pretty grim. But you just want something to get behind.
Key Buckley is saying, break Poulsen's legs. Denmark, you won't have to worry about leaving space at the back. Feck Eriksson. Poulsen is their main danger man. Pelstar wondering if John is going to buy Waterford Football Club. It's up for sale. Irish Gary says, is it too early to have the Troy Parrott cologne out in time for the Christmas rush? Smelling of Troy.
I like it.
That will absolutely not be topped this morning. So
Smelling of
good
Troy.
on you, Irish Gary. That is quite the gag that he seems to come up with all by himself. 23 minutes past 8. You're watching OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. Great to have you with us this morning. If you've got any more Troy Parrott gags or anything else, keep them coming. We're going to bring them to you between now and 9 o'clock, 9:30. We've rugby coming your way a little bit later on. We're going to be joined on the line by Ronan O'Gara in about 20 minutes' time, and Alan Quinlan will be with us after that. Obviously a massive weekend for the provinces. We're going to get stuck into that in just a few moments. But before that, looking forward to getting a bit of a break. Jack Byrne discussed a memorable few weeks with club and country and lining out alongside Troy Parrott.
Jack, FAI Cup final a couple of weeks ago here, and today your Ireland stars. I know all your family were here to support you as well, and some great stuff with yourself and your mum in recent weeks. How can you sum up the last couple of weeks overall?
Yeah, just brilliant. You know, I've obviously been to Viva a couple of times, and you know, memories that I can take away with me and bring to the grave with me. So look, it's been a great week, and you know, I'm just looking forward to having a break now as well after Monday.
Yeah, having watched you playing as a kid, you're still playing the same type of Jack Byrne football for Rovers and for Ireland senior team when you were playing for Kevin's as a kid. Has that been easy to do, to still play your own style on the biggest stage possible?
Yeah, just trying to. I only know one way to play, and just trying to get on the ball and make things happen. And look, I tried to do that tonight. Sometimes it came off, sometimes it didn't. But look, that's what I tried to do. That's what I'll always do.
And you were still looking for those famous, you know, passes and crosses and trying to get assists as you always do?
Yeah, always. I'm obviously good friends with Troy, so trying to get him a goal and sometimes forcing it a little bit. But look, yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good game.
Yeah, I saw a piece with Troy on FAI TV during the week, and he was speaking about being your roommate and you looking out for him, and it was a great photo of you guys having a smile and a laugh and training. He's a little bit younger than you, but I know you're from the same area. How has it been tonight, for example, making your first start alongside him and his first start?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Look, even just driving into the ground, we're going past, you know, obviously Ballybock and Summerhill, and his nanny's house is decked out and all the Ireland stuff. So look, it's just good. It's good to have somebody from the same area, and look, hopefully we're doing the people there proud.
And I'm sure that word is very important, proud, that you're from town, he's from town, it's only up the road, and everybody, I'm sure, is very, very proud of both of you.
Yeah, 100%, and even just being in the stadium and seeing familiar faces that you might not have seen in a while coming out and supporting you, it's a nice feel.
Yeah, and that is a face we're going to see much more of over the coming years. Both he and Troy Parrott, great stories. Also taking on more of a senior role in the team last night, Alan Brown. A few nice little touches from Alan Brown last night. Spoke to Nathan after a job well done against the Kiwis.
Different role for you tonight in what was quite an experimental side. Suddenly you're one of the senior guys out there. There's a lot of young players around you. Did you approach the game in a different manner because of that?
A little bit. I think, when you've young lads coming in making their debuts, you kind of have to look after them a little bit, and maybe cover them at times, talk to them a lot more, and I think it's important not to get caught up in that, though. You can easily focus on someone else's game and kind of lose sight of your own, so it's important to balance the two. A lot of the senior lads have to do that with the younger boys coming in, and I thought they were fantastic tonight. I don't think they needed any help. They didn't look a bit out of place and played really well.
How do you look after Jack Byrne?
I think Jack looked after himself. I don't think that boy needs any looking after. He does his job, and I think you have to kind of talk to him on his defensive side of things. But I think he knows that. He knows he has parts to improve on, but going forward, getting on the ball, I think he's one of the best players in the team, and his quality is top drawer, and he can produce moments of magic. So I think you just have to keep encouraging him and let his talent show.
Irish Gary's been back in touch. He says it's helpfully one of the Troy McClure stable of gags, so not his own. To be fair to him, like, the temptation on the internet these days would be to take all that.
Put the head down, take the credit.
Take the credit.
But also, you've repurposed it at the right time.
Oh, I don't like to be doing yourself down there. Right, let's keep the analysis rolling from the Aviva last night. We've had some stellar coverage, and seems to have been some sort of quasi-commentary of the game last night, which was definitely not the plan. But anyway, regardless of all of that, we've got the post-match thoughts of footballer come recording artist Stewie Byrne.
I don't know whether Robbie has done too much to kind of maybe force his way into the thoughts of Mick McCarthy. He's played the whole game as well, so you'd have to say that he probably won't. Callum Robinson came on and really looked well, took his goal really well, and then all of a sudden looked a really confident player. He was starting to try things, so I don't know what way he's going to go. All I will say is that, what you take out of the game is, can you imagine if we had been beaten tonight? Can you imagine what training would have been like in the morning? Fellas' heads would have been down. And the team that's going to start on Monday, that would have fed into the whole atmosphere, and it would just, I wouldn't say it'd be a toxic atmosphere, but it'd be a negative. What you're going to have now, players coming in the morning, a little bit of banter, feeling good about going into Monday, and that's all we need. That's all we need, is to have everything in as best a preparation as we possibly can, and then the players, whoever's picked on Monday, just got to do the business.
First international starts tonight for Troy Parrott, still just 17 years of age, and also for Jack Byrne in the middle of midfield. Both of them played just over an hour. How would you assess their performances?
I think for Troy, for Troy's point of view, 17 years of age, just getting on the pitch and playing for the senior team was a big thing for him. I like the fact that he's had a little bit of a go at the big centre half, Winston Reid. He's put it up to him a little bit. That tells me a lot about him. He's confident in his own ability. He can stand up to anybody. Not much came his way, but didn't strike a frustrating figure to me. And he looks like he's got a very good attitude about him. So all in all, a positive night for him. Similar for Jack Byrne, I thought he was quite impressive in I'd probably say the first 25 minutes where we were on the front foot until, of course, New Zealand scored. And I think he showed that he's capable of doing something different. And again, I've always felt that Jack, in his current role in the Ireland team, is somebody who can come on 15-20 minutes and just try something. When the legs are a little bit tired, try something different, get on the ball, get turned, make things happen. So I would have thought that he's certainly in Mick McCarthy's thoughts for Monday.
Of all the new players who came in tonight, and there were a lot of players appearing here at this stadium for the first time, the one who arguably stood out more than anybody was actually Leo Connor, a player who probably wouldn't have been here if he wasn't suspended for the under-21s. Right back, has yet to play a senior game of club football, but came in tonight, played a wonderful ball for Callum Robinson's goal, and pretty much didn't put a foot wrong at right back. He's a fascinating prospect if he can make that breakthrough at club level.
Yeah, I'd agree. I caught my eye quite early on in the game. I just thought his intent. You always know when a good player is that their intentions are always good, always looking to step forward into the game, always wanting to take the ball in front of him. Looks to do things, cuts inside, looks to play one touch, looks to get forward. Very, very similar to the way Seamus Coleman at his best will play. Not everything went his way in the first half, but once he got a little bit of space in the second half, you can see the tired New Zealand team started to press forward, looking to get forward, starting to get deliveries into the box. And then what a ball he's put in for Callum Robinson. I mean, he's effectively made the mind up for Robinson. Played it right into that beautiful 6-yard area, really asking Robinson to go and attack it, which he duly did. And you can see Robbie Brady, the skipper, straight over to Leo Connor to congratulate him. So a great night for him. I'm delighted for him. Hopefully now, as you say, he can get a bit of club football under his belt.
I think everyone genuinely delighted as well for Seanie Maguire to get his first international goal. Started this campaign, his first choice away in Gibraltar, but he's just had so many injury problems. Every couple of months seems to have a hamstring problem and misses a run of games, and just never really got into his flow in his career since he moved over to England. But he took his goal brilliantly, 25 yards out, and the power and just the craft to bend it round the keeper as well. And that goal in itself almost seemed to transform him, because the next 10-15 minutes he was almost unstoppable. Do you think he may well end up having a role on Monday night?
Well, it's a nice headache for Mick to have, isn't it, when you think about it? He probably came into this game thinking, I give Sean a run, hasn't played that much, certainly hasn't played that much international football recently. Let's get him back into the fold, get him back into our thoughts. And then all of a sudden he comes up with a goal like that, and you're thinking, well, strikers are at their best when they're confident. When the confidence is really high. We're going to need players like that, Nathan. We really are. So again, he's definitely an option on Monday. Let's see how the game goes, how it fizzles out. The opportunity might present itself that if the player, the likes of a Sean Maguire, might be able to come on and take advantage of, possibly a weakness you might spot in the Danish defence. I don't know, but it's a good headache for Mick to have.
A YouTube user whose name I definitely can't say. Stewie Byrne looks like he's a member of AC/DC in that getup.
Brian Johnson?
No idea.
It's the hat.
Looks sharp, I thought.
Stewie always looks sharp. Some man.
Some would say it's the company he keeps. You're always going to look sharp in that company.
Wow. You're really going for it this morning. I made the effort to come in here.
Fair enough.
I'm fine when I'm watching at home and it's Owen Sheehan who's on the receiving end of this.
I just thought we had last week.
So I do find on a Friday morning, he too, by the time he gets to half 8, is like, why am I taking this? Why am I taking this constant abuse?
Owen never takes abuse. He would be sort of very much up for dishing it back.
I see Owen, we should mention, I see your picture is in the...
listen.
Is it the Kerry Eye?
It's a classic case of somebody who's looking for a bit of fame and they tried to hook somebody else in with them by way of, look, I'm mates with this guy. I'm like, leave me out of it all.
So Owen Sheehan writes a weekly column, is it, is it the Kerry Eye?
Something like that.
And was talking about his trip to Mayo, and yourself and Owen played for Mayo in a charity football game.
We did play in Mayo jerseys at Crow Park.
Well,
you ever done that?
No.
Oh.
Played at Crow Park, but
not in a Mayo jersey.
Not in a Mayo jersey. I couldn't do it. I don't deserve it. I'm not one of those truly heroic men who pulls on that jersey when they go out to Crow Park.
If somebody has just tuned into OTB AM and has no idea who you are, they'll be like, oh, that's great, he's a man of great virtue. And everyone else will be like, go out of that.
Yeah.
We did play against, No Shea played that night. He definitely did, and was unbelievable, obviously, against the standard.
You're kidding me. Aidan O'Shea against you and O'Shea.
Like mugs.
Did anybody try and shoulder a regular human, try and take on?
Unbelievable. Don, he played. There was one point where at one point you're like, the amount of times I would have touched the ball over the course of the entire game would have been fairly negligible. You could probably count them on one hand, but at some point or another you're like, I'm going to get in close to this guy and just give it a bit of a rattle, see how we get on. But inevitably you don't even get close to them. Like,
their movements just so quick, you can't get near them. That's fair enough.
And a player of my quality, Nathan, that's, you know what I mean? Fair enough. You don't. That's okay. Right, we are going to bring you through all the very latest in the world of live sport in just a few minutes. It is 8:35 on this Friday morning. You're watching OTB AM, which is the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. You can check out all the best bits up on offtheball.com. We've already been speaking with John O'Shea to get his thoughts on the game last night. We're looking ahead to Monday night with him. And also, of course, almost 10 years since the day of that handball. So all of that up on offtheball.com shortly. We're going to talk to Ronan O'Gara in just a little bit ahead of a massive weekend of Heineken Cup Rugby and Alan Quinlan in Studio 2. Tom Malone is on the way to let us know about all the world of live sport this morning. But before that, despite receiving praise in certain quarters, John Giles described Gareth Southgate's handling of the Raheem Sterling-Joe Gomez affair as dreadful management.
These things happen now and again. You know, I mean, it wasn't as anybody was killed, and to leave him out of the team, I think was dreadful management. I mean, some of the things that Southgate has been saying, I just reading the paper this morning. He said the decision has been made not to play Raheem Sterling against America. The decision has been made with the agreement of the entire squad. And a reporter then said this wasn't strictly true. Some of the squad felt that the punishment was too severe, and others felt that the matter should not be made as public at all. You know, this is Southgate talking. You know, and he said, and then they said in front of the microphone, Southgate's message was a very different one about who was in charge. I have discussed with all my staff and the leadership group. He has a leadership group, absolutely says, but ultimately I made the decision. Now, what does he mean by that? I mean, the group it consists of Harry Kane, Henderson, Maguire, Delph, and Sterling himself. So if you're discussing things with people like that who are part of the squad, then why do you have to have a discussion with them, Nathan? If you're the manager and you say, well, ultimately it was my decision, you know, I think it was very, very badly handled. There was a bit of a do. But why not say, yes, there was, but the players have made up, which they did. Sterling apparently is very, very disappointed, and he leaves him out of the team.
Morning, Tom.
Hi, Dion. You well?
I'm fully in with Giles. I think it's bad management. I think bring them in, sit the two of them down, knock their heads together. Like Raheem Sterling has shown the maturity over the last, whatever it is, 12 hours to send out the post to say, like, this is not a guy who's sticking to his guns gung-ho, right? Like, I was right. I hate that Joe Gomez. He's clearly shown the maturity now that actually he was well able to have been sat down and said, listen, understand what went on at the weekend. Like, it's the context here is two of the best teams on the planet at the minute vying it out for the Premier League title. And yes, there was a bit of needle, and yes, it carried over to the England team, and yes, that's not something that England want in their camp. But the only reaction to that doesn't have to be drop kicking him out of the squad.
It has to be buried internally, doesn't it? It could easily have been buried internally. And then you don't have the... There was only a tiny bit of booing. That's been completely overstated as well. But, like, just keep it in-house and just bring them together. And it seems like, you know, they're friends. It's not like, you know, it's just something that spilled over.
It struck me as the decision of a man who spent too much time at bullshit management courses. That this was something that had been discussed. How you deal with this sort of internal conflict. Football is different. And shouldn't be in other ways. I understand that bullying cultures, things like that football has seen itself down through the years as being different in a very negative way, that you can speak out. But, and Gareth Southgate may come back and obviously say it was one-sided, and he has already. So this wasn't a training ground scrap. This was Raheem Sterling attacking Joe Gomez, who was very much the innocent party, who didn't strike back, who totally unprovoked, was going around shaking hands with his teammates, and was basically jumped upon and set upon by Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling was totally out of line. There had to be some sort of punishment, clearly. It wasn't one of these, all right, lads, shake hands, let's move on. But you're right, it had to be kept in-house because it's backfired spectacularly. It's become far bigger than it needed to be. If it was so serious that you need to say, Raheem Sterling, you're not going to be part of the squad
sit him out for the game.
For the next 6 months.
Nobody needs to know.
Exactly, sit him out for the game. And if Raheem Sterling decides himself to make it public, but what you've ended up doing, because of the way English football is, hanging them both out to dry. And it's become... At first I thought this was a great thing because it's not Roy Keane players hugging each other in the tunnels. It's Liverpool, Manchester City. It's going to be this great rivalry. Anything that stokes it up a little bit is brilliant. But now it's been taken over by the idiots. And you're going to have Liverpool supporters destroying Raheem Sterling in just such a stupid way. Same with Joe Gomez. Rather than when they go head-to-head, you'd love to see another clash between the two of them in a way. You'd
like to see them just have it out fair and square. Like, see who is the better man out in the pitch. And then it's just, instead of this
But because
nonsense.
of the way modern football is covered and online trolls and all that sort of bullshit. Like, that's what Gareth Southgate has now exposed the two of them to massively.
The surprising bit for me is that, like, Southgate, I know you're cynically talking about the management courses that he might have been on, like the good management of that obviously would have been to have not done what he did and to have just brought them in quietly, knocked their heads together and said, listen, where are we at in this, and get it sorted out internally. That would have been the good management. But the surprise for me is that actually he makes a lot of good decisions, Gareth Southgate. Like, he's been praised over the last few years for bringing that England team together in a way that they've, I can't remember in my lifetime being anywhere close to that.
They seem to genuinely have a good culture, to use a terrible buzzword.
That's why this decision looks to be such a bad one from somebody. Like, if it was any of the previous managers that have, if it was the last guy, briefly, you'd have gone, typical Big Sam, whereas it's not with this guy.
But I think a lot of what he has done has been looking around at managements in different industries and trying to, as you say, create a culture. There are certain moments, though, where you have to look at the individual incident and make a decision based on what's right for you in that situation. And something Gareth Southgate, I think, has spoken about and was dead right, because we look back on previous golden generation of English teams. All of them now speak about the Liverpool players sat at one table, the Manchester United players sat at another table, didn't like each other at all, and he wanted to get rid of that. And maybe he saw this as a return to that you'll have Manchester City on one side, you'll have Liverpool on the other side. The two won't come together. This is going to become a big issue, and actually I'm just going to clamp it down. And if it means exposing Raheem Sterling and Joe Gomez, so be it. Maybe potentially Gareth Southgate is sitting back going, I knew this was going to happen. Maybe I'm doing a bit of service. Maybe he thought, you know what, actually, this is going to blow up. It's going to be a huge story for a week, but I'm prepared to take that risk if it means that within the squad there is no separation.
Look, the other thing is that...
So many management courses coming out with guff like that.
Yeah, there's no risk on the pitch, though. You know what I mean? They went and hockeyed them 7-0. They didn't need Raheem Sterling. So it's a grand game to say you're sitting this out and punish him for that.
Exactly.
Well,
not important.
Yeah, there's no risk on the pitch right now.
Yeah, no,
This is a 2 years down the line. Raheem Sterling is, I felt... I remember Raheem Sterling probably, after Harry Kane, the most pivotal player in that squad from a leadership point of view, it feels as well. That he's very much a driving force. He's part of that leadership group that Gareth Southgate has put together. Does he feel somewhat separated from that now? He's not going to say it publicly right now. Of course he's not. But in time to come, does he say, that felt like a moment where I needed backing and the manager hung me out to dry?
Yeah.
Tom, you're going to kick us off a big match reaction?
Yeah, we'll start with Republic of Ireland. Of course, they're building up to Monday's must-win game against the Danes after beating New Zealand 3-1 in a friendly at the Aviva Stadium last night. Derek Williams, Seanie Maguire and Callum Robinson with the goals in front of a crowd of less than 19,000. 17-year-old Troy Parrott made his debut, and Robbie Brady, I suppose, significantly played the full 90 minutes. Manager Mick McCarthy, though, says he's taken positives from the victory.
What will I take? We've had 4 full debuts. They've all been involved in a win. 3 players have scored the first goal for the country. We've had a win. There's no points to be gained from it. Will it make any difference to our performance on Monday? Who knows? But I think it'll make a difference to how people perceive the team and any positivity going into Monday about the game.
Yeah, it was Mick, and Tottenham striker Troy Parrott said it was an incredibly proud day for him.
I was just delighted to get out there and obviously walking out in the green jersey in my hometown in Dublin is just the best feeling I've ever felt.
Elsewhere in the group tonight, Denmark are at home to Gibraltar, with Switzerland hosting Georgia. Both those games getting underway at 7:45. England's youngest starting lineup for 60 years sealed their place at the Euro 2020 finals with a 7-0 thumping of Montenegro at Wembley last night. That victory sealing their place in the championships. Captain Harry Kane scored a hat-trick, while Tammy Abraham got his first goal for the national team as well. And manager Gareth Southgate told Sky Sports News his side have certainly no issues up front.
Well, we're blessed because with the likes of Harry, Raheem, Marcus, and then the younger ones that are coming into the mix as well, we've got incredible firepower. So we always think we can score goals. We always will cause opponents problems.
On to rugby then. All 4 Irish provinces will name their teams over the course of the day today for the opening weekend of European Champions Cup matches. Tonight, Gloucester play Toulouse in Connacht's Pool 5. That kicks off at 7:45. Tomorrow, Leinster will play Treviso. Munster are away to the Ospreys, while Ulster will be at the Rec against Bath. And on Sunday, Connacht face Montpellier. The World Para-Athletics Championships draw to a close in Dubai today. Antrim Michael McKellop will look to retain his 1500 metres T38 title. He's joined in that field by by David Levy. And Mary Fitzgerald bids for a medal in the F40 shot put decider later. And there were incredibly unsavoury scenes in the NFL last night. I don't know if you saw this. Also, most of our team have posted the clips on Twitter, but Cleveland Browns Myles Garrett, he attacked the Pittsburgh Steelers Mason Rudolph with his own helmet. So he tackled the quarterback, and then he sort of followed through, and then beyond that, he just grabbed his face guard. There was a tussle, ripped off the helmet, didn't stop there, and just started swinging at him with the helmet as everyone just sort of piled in. And yeah, it's phenomenal. Anyway, it's as bad an incident as it was raining penalty flags.
Whose helmet has he got?
He's got the quarterback's helmet. So he's tackled him, got up, pulled his helmet off, is still going for him, and then your man goes like, "What are you doing?" And he starts swinging his helmet, the quarterback's helmet, at the quarterback.
So is the quarterback just hidden behind the guy we can see with the helmet?
Yeah, you just can't see him now. He's still swinging, and the other team have like bailed in to try and stop this. Anyway, Brown's quarterback, who's obviously a teammate of Myles Garrett, who attacked the Pittsburgh Steelers player, says his teammate's behaviour was a disgrace.
I don't care, rivalry or not, we can't do that. That's just endangering the other team. It's inexcusable. He knows that. I hope he does now. It's tough. The reality is he's going to get suspended. We don't know how long, and that hurts our team. It's inexcusable.
Yeah, and you see quite a few sort of legends of the NFL game, and they're just expressing their absolute shock at the incident all over social media. But it's quite a watch now. It's pretty unsavoury. Like,
you don't hear that too often in sport.
No.
Where a teammate comes out and goes, yeah, my teammate absolutely screwed up here.
To be fair, I haven't seen it, but it sounds like there probably wasn't much else. Like, when you get asked the question, you can't... Well,
can you imagine if Gary Neville was interviewed after Roy Keane did Alf-Inge Haaland and said, "Oh, bloody hell, he's screwed us over there. He's going to get a long suspension.
The difference is that you can kind of...
He's going to be out for the next 9 months. As a team, he's damaged us massively."
It's such an outrageous challenge that this will challenge this point, but you can kind of say, he was in for the ball sort of thing, right? Whereas with that one, he's literally pulled the helmet off and he's whacking the guy over the head.
After he's late tackled him, and he's hung on after the late tackle, and he's pulled his helmet off, and then swings for him with the helmet. Like,
I was rewatching that whole Alf-Inge Haaland thing last week I have absolutely no idea why.
for work.
I have no idea why. But the Keane cruciate, and then followed by the challenge, like, it's puggery, an unbelievable, like, ridiculously high. The more years go by, it didn't look great at the time, obviously. The more years go by, like, you would get a season suspension for that stuff now.
Standing over him as well. Obviously can't quote what he said. And his racing later from Dundalk, like it's underway at 5:15.
He'd tell you himself.
He would.
Yeah.
Right, thanks for that, Tom. As women's football continues to grow in Ireland, Amber Barrett revealed the world difference that exists in Germany's professional setup on Off the Ball last night.
When you look at where German football is, like, is it simply a weight of numbers that they are one of the best teams in the world right now? It feels maybe a slight step ahead of Ireland. Or when you have looked at German football in your time there, are they doing things differently that we can learn a lot from?
Well, I think the main difference between Ireland and football in Germany is that it's professional here, and that makes a huge difference to any country and any club. The fact that I'm very, very lucky to have moved to Cologne during the summer, and I've been exposed now to 8 or 9 training sessions a week, in comparison to 2, max 3 in Ireland. And if you're looking at that, you have 9 sessions compared to 3. There is only ever going to be one outcome. Katie Taylor's never going to win any of her fights if she's only training 3 times a week. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are. I think that the German players a lot of them are more exposed to that professional environment, and I think the Irish players are growing all the time. And there's definitely loads of opportunity for Irish players to go away. In terms of the Irish league and in comparison to the German league, I think that's. I think the size and magnitude, obviously, financially, it's very, very difficult to compete. But that's something that Irish football is going to have to do, because that will also help bridging the gap in international level, and it will make it a lot easier for our teams to qualify and compete against the best teams. When the structure is there underneath them to support.
Yeah, the Cologne forward Amber Barrett in conversation with Nathan last night. Check out that full piece up on our YouTube channel and on offtheball.com as well. It's 8:50 on this Friday morning. Just a piece of news to let you know, David Meyler confirming on Twitter in the last couple of moments that I'm delighted to announce that I'm involved in the coaching setup of the Ireland under-17, so we'll get some more thoughts on that as the morning progresses. But a monster weekend of Heineken Cup rugby, couple of games live and off the ball over the weekend. Bath Ulster tomorrow from 1 o'clock from the Rec. How will life begin after Rory Best? For Ulster, that's tomorrow 1 p.m, and then the 3:15 start at the RDS is Leinster against Benetton. Both of those games live and off the ball. And the other matches will be Ospreys against Munster tomorrow evening from 5:30, and then on Sunday, Connacht at home against Montpellier from 1. Ronan O'Gara, good morning to you. Come on in, La Rochelle. We're going to get Ronan back up on the line there. The line has just come down. It gives us an opportunity to talk about David Myler getting involved. Some of the we've had on the show over the programme, interesting feature interviews, interesting co-commentaries, interesting stuff at events. Interesting guy, interesting development.
Yeah, he's been involved on a couple of occasions now, so they have a 3-game spell at the moment. So I think he's been in camp down in Fota in Cork for the last week, and he was also involved in a 3-day training camp last month. I think he was just keen to keep it under wraps as he sort of sussed out whether it was for him and whether Colin O'Brien, who was the manager, very much wanted him involved. I think he did. They won 6-0 the other day. Obviously claiming total credit for that, but this is continuing the policy, I think, of the FAI, just making sure that former players are kept in the fold. It was something that didn't happen for years, but obviously Andy Reid is with the under-18s, Keith Andrews is with the under-21s, having previously been there. So it's a good thing, a lot of knowledge, good enthusiasm.
Ronan O'Gara, are you with us?
Yeah, sorry, it was your live tweets that were tagging me.
Listen, don't be blaming us. That's not how this thing works.
I'm in excuse mode this week, yeah.
You're getting them in early, is that it? How are you feeling? It's Exeter tomorrow, 4:15 our time, at the Stade Marcel de Flandre. How are you feeling about it all?
Yeah, it's great. I think we're 9 games into top 14, so this is a brilliant change, and we need it because hopefully we haven't really had that big performance yet this season. So if we're to kind of win tomorrow, we need that. We try not to talk in our language about winning. We kind of concentrate on performances. But what a competition! It obviously doesn't have that much history in our club. I was looking at kind of a few of the individual stats during the week. So I think the club has been in Europe, as they call it, the Big Boys Cup, for 1 season. So for what's bread and butter in our country, over here it's very different. But you got to look. You kind of, if you were to win a top 14, you have to win it. You may have to win 28, 29 games. If you were to win Europe, you could do it in 9 games. So tomorrow's a home game, so it's imperative we get off to a good start.
Yeah, is it seen as a step up, or is because that's the impression that you get over the years, that there are certain teams, obviously French teams, who take it seriously, but that there are some clubs who either just don't get it or are not interested in getting it.
I think the reality is within 2 games you'll know whether you're alive or not, and then the reality of the top 14 is, most definitely our policy is that we're going to go hard at this competition, because this competition warrants massive respect. It's the competition that, from a personal point of view, I'm trying to get that message that for me it's the best competition in the world, and playing for your club. European level, it's like European Cup in football. It's the exact same. So it has big importance for our club. Yes, we don't have much history in it, but that doesn't matter. Tomorrow we aim to start well.
Exeter have been so impressive over the last number of years from a cultural philosophy point of view, entire club point of view, really. They came a bit of a cropper last week. Do you spend much time picking over that stuff, or does it have any relevance for you?
No, it does. You're right. Of course it does. They're 17-0 up at home, and for them to, I suppose, lose the game 2017. I was following the game a little bit, but then I switched off once I saw 17-0 because I presumed it was going to go, 35-3. But in fairness to Bristol, they obviously regrouped and plucked off a brilliant result. So, Exeter will have had a difficult week and they'll be looking to reply tomorrow, but that's their problem. I think we need to concentrate on getting ourselves right. And that's the challenge with guys coming back from the World Cup. And probably players that are not used to, I suppose, John O'Gibbs's or my maybe routine and how we work daily. So it's great. It's exactly what we want, and I think the top 14, Leon and Bordeaux, are away in a hack at the front of the group, and everyone else is jostling in behind them. So from that point of view, we've cracked the home games, but we haven't done anything away from home. Took a bit of a tonking last weekend from Leon, but bizarrely we probably showed more in attack than we had in other games. So unless I'm becoming delusional, we are making a little bit of progress.
Yeah, it's still only a few points off the top 4, obviously, despite that, so very much in the mix. You mentioned the away thing there, and it was a point that you picked up in your Examiner piece this morning. I don't fully understand that. Can you explain that to us and to the viewers, that dynamic of the home versus the away games, and why it's
I
so
can't
hard
either. I can't, and I've done 5 or 6 seasons in France. I cannot explain it. It drives me mad. But it's I don't know, you're kind of raging against history, or raging against the mentality of certain players that have been formed, as you say. So we have a second row tomorrow. He's played 90 times for La Rochelle, but he's played 3 times in Champions Cup. So the Champions Cup will be new to him, but he's shaped and he's formed on his top 14 mentality, and that would be that you win your home games. But I'm trying to get it to the stage which, why not win away from home, or let's just try and talk about performance and what we need to kind of, I suppose, have of our pillars of performance, that we have a chance when we go away from home. But we could have had Montpellier buried before half time, but we kind of had 2 tries ruled out and we left 1 gilt-edged chance. So a 17 or a 23 point deficit becomes 12-10, and that's not taking your chances, and that's not being ruthless. So they came back at us in the second half and they deserved to win. But it's just very, very difficult to explain, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Everyone's
but not doing a good job.
Everyone, Ronan's obviously wondering about Saracens and how seriously they're going to take this. Is the focus going to be on the Premiership? And if they aren't taking it overly seriously and putting out full-strength sides in Europe, maybe Exeter are the best of the rest when it comes to the English sides. And obviously they've progressed over the last couple of years. They've put themselves in good positions. And I think of games against Leinster where even beforehand everyone's talking about maybe that lack of European pedigree and it taking years to learn and to earn that European pedigree. Now that you're in that coaching role, is European rugby different to domestic rugby? Do you need different tactics, different style, different sort of experiences to be able to progress during this competition?
You do most definitely. It's a very, very, very interesting point. Yeah, statistically, or the evidence points that the ball and play time in the Europe is far greater, especially in the Champions Cup compared to top 14. So we're averaging perhaps ball and play around, in average in top 14 around 32 minutes. The average in Champions Cup is 39 minutes, and we've hit 45 in games last season. So you can see there's a big difference in terms of the tempo of the game. But also, going back, and it's kind of going back to your previous question, the template for winning away from home in top 14, a lot of teams have been successful from playing absolutely zero rugby. So, but in Europe, you just won't be able to do that. It'll be refereed differently. And also, like teams from Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England are better organised and they play probably a more positive brand of rugby. So they'll test you in different domains. A lot of the French game can be scrum, line out and kick. So that wouldn't cut it at Champions Cup level.
Have you much left to do at this stage, or is it work done and just on the run-in?
No, it's on the itinerary. It's captain's run, but there's a little bit more than that involved today. So it's for this afternoon, which it's exciting. I think we need a little bit of a change from the top 14. As you say, we don't have much history. Nathan's point is valid that maybe when it comes to it that we lack that experience, but that can work both ways. Why not have a go at it, and why not bring something different? We still have a few big players in our team, and I think they will be stimulated by this this opportunity. So yeah, we are kind of closing the I suppose the runways to letting excuses live or thrive in our environment. So it's an ongoing process, but it's an enjoyable process. But we're just seeking that performance now.
You're in there with Glasgow and Sale. What's the goal from the European Cup?
Well, the goal is to win tomorrow.
Overall?
Overall, well, I think in 24 hours we'll have a far clearer picture. If we don't beat Exeter at home, we're up against it big time, and then we go to Sale the following Sunday. But for us, we've kind of taken these two blocks, and then we'll know we're alive in Europe. Otherwise, the focus, unfortunately, will revert back to top 14. But for me, that would be so frustrating, because this competition is the competition that I love being involved in.
Looking at it from the Irish point of view, we had the interprovincial derbies last week, and there were some really strong individual performances, and obviously from Leinster a hugely impressive performance down in Galway against Connacht. And it does feel the players coming back and are in very good condition, and not surprisingly they were probably trying to peak all year for 2 weeks ago and potentially a World Cup final. When you're looking at players, and I know it's different what you've coming back in France, but when you look at Leinster, Munster, Connacht, Ulster this weekend, and those returning players, should they be at the peak of their powers right now? Is this the moment where physically, mentally, well, mentally maybe it's different, but physically they should be right at it this weekend because of what they've gone through at the World Cup?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's the timing involved, and obviously for whatever reason, it was similar for myself in 07. I felt it big time. It wasn't there when you needed it at Rugby World Cup time, but it was great for that season. Felt very good. It's obviously a mental challenge now, but I think the Irish mentality, our psyche, is very good at responding. But I think we need to get away from that and obviously try and thrive in the role of favourites, which Leinster do extremely well, which teams in New Zealand do very well. But some teams or some organisations are very happy to play the underdog role and come back strong. But I think just the messages from the World Cup obviously are fresh in people's head, and the timing in terms of peaking didn't work. But also, I think you wouldn't underestimate it's a complete different level, Nathan. I think the Champions Cup is a great competition, but World Cup test level, it's a different kettle of fish altogether, test rugby.
I definitely don't want to get into a deep conversation about more of the Ireland sort of analysis. I'm not sure that I can stomach much more of it for the time being anyway, but I did listen with interest to Johnny Sexton's comments at the Heineken Cup launch. It might have been a week or 10 days ago now, about how deeply Japan cut, and he had said with where our own Neil Tracy was over with him that it was something along the lines of, and I'm summarising here, the scar won't heal. Like, is there a danger from your experience of coming back off the back of a disappointing World Cup like that and trying to fix it all in one game, or trying to fix it all in a couple of games?
No, I don't think so. And I think Johnny's, as we know, is an insane competitor, and it will cut him, and that's what it means to him, because he won't be. That's his World Cup cycle over. So that cut will remain very deep, as it did for all previous Irish players that have failed to deliver at Rugby World Cup stages. He can't really change that now, but what he can do is he can have a belter of a season with Leinster, and he can have a belter of a season with Ireland, and then probably reassess. But there's no point saying that you move on and I'm parking that and it's over, because it's got to mean more than that, and I think they are pretty accurate words from Johnny.
It'll be interesting to see how a lot of the Irish internationals go when they're back at the provinces. A quick one on Munster, and I'm sure you're probably only keeping a half eye on events elsewhere because you've got enough on your plate, but a bit of out half, I don't know if crisis is quite the right word, but I mean maybe it is, on the basis that Ben Healy, who's played for Munster A, academy graduate, playing for Gary Owen, if Hanrahan isn't fit, we won't know until a bit later today, is a guy that could come in to make a pretty early Heineken Cup debut about it. Johan van Graan was talking about some of the other solutions being Rory Scannell, or maybe Conor Murray even playing at out half.
Yeah, from I kind of know the two of them because I've trained with the two of them, so probably have a good position to come. Yeah, Rory Scannell I think would be a good 10. keep Conor Murray away from it. Keep him well away from it.
Did he play a little bit there back in schools or at some point that he...
Oh, sure, he did. He's a goal kicker as well. Don't mind Conor. He's grand. Get him in there playing 9. He's the best in the world at 9 when he wants to be. So keep him in there. I would think it's Rory Scannell could easily, but you're also, if you have strong support around Ben Healy, it could be the day to launch him. You know, in terms of European Cup away games, it's Ospreys, but they're so used to them. I don't think Munster are spooked by going there. But sometimes you just got to launch these guys and throw them in. But it's dangerous throwing them in with very other inexperienced players. But he's going to have CJ, Peter O'Mahony, Chris Farrell is kind of going to be the nucleus around him. And Conor Murray obviously inside him. So for me, that's a great support network for a young 10 that's trying to make us. You'll never really know, but it's a great option, and it's the ballsy option. But if he's a 10 and a real 10, you might get a little bit more out of him than a 12 going into 10.
Do you know anything about him?
No, unfortunately, no. I'm too old to have to have trained with him. So I've been following progress, and he's doing well in the AL. But 20, he just needs minutes. He needs game time. But the dilemma is, how does he get it when coaches are seeking results?
Are you saying in general just keep scrum halves away from being out halves, or is that specific to Conor Murray?
I'm just particularly just for Conor Murray. I just think
why
he's just too fond of. I think he wanted to be a number 10, and it's too late at 30 to try. Tell him.
O'Gara slams Murray. You know that's going to be the headline here.
He was goal kicking in the World Cup as well, wasn't he? Shaking up and chest out, and he's very, very fond of himself. I like it.
Out halves have to be fond of themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Big time. That's part of the course, but
not present company accepted.
What? There's definitely a bit of protectionism going on here. It's clearly a real bugbear of all number 10s that everybody who plays rugby thinks, yeah, I could play in that position. I could take the glory all the time. You know, I bet you had training, Rod, you weren't there throwing the ball in, pretending you were a hooker, thinking I can do all this, but everybody will have a kick at goal.
Oh, that's it. It's very apt. Even last week we had our scrum coach, hooker, like you're trying to set a scene of serious and professionalism, and you can see your man, like he sees a few idle tees and he puts it down, he starts having a few pots at goal, and they're kind of going, well, that's not really the atmosphere we're looking to see when our players run out there.
Crazy golf approach. What's the ceiling of Munster's ambition? What's success for Munster this season?
That's a good question. Sometimes people are harsh in Munster in the fact that they've been to 2 semi-finals, which is really good in that regard. And then you might say, well, that's a bit of a defeatist attitude because Munster have been, their norm is to win competitions, but we've only won two Heineken Cups. But the flip side, when I played, I think we were in 10 semi-finals, which was a great statistic. But Munster have been to the last 2 semi-finals, I think, which for me I think is good, and you have to analyse it accurately. I think what has been very clear is the fact that they haven't been close in semi-finals, and Saracens and Leinster are a gulf, are probably a class apart from every other team in the competition with their experience and with their knowledge of winning the competition and knowing how to eke out the results. So they're big. They are big game teams. But Munster, I would say, are most definitely the tier below, and the vibes coming out with. I think they've got a gem in Larkham. I genuinely think that this guy was a special player, and I think he could be a special brain too. So that could be something that, because the backs, I think. There's a lot of potential in the backs, and I don't think there will be as much emphasis on not playing in their half. Australians play, and Larkham will insist on that.
Yeah. All right, we're going to watch with interest, as we will tomorrow at 4:15 our time. Best of luck with it. We'll catch up with you soon.
Will you really watch with interest tomorrow, 4:15?
I'm going to be. I said we. I'm going to be in London enjoying myself. I'm not going to lie to you. The royal we.
We, the off the ball team.
I'm going to ensure that it's on in studio. Of course, we'll have our live commentary of Leinster, unfortunately, at the same time. I did propose that we do all La Rochelle's games live from France, and Adrian vetoed it.
No, I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch the first half hour. When La Rochelle are 17 points to nil up, I'm going to check out.
I would just point out, Adrian, that that's 4:15 French time. So
is it French time?
You won't lose sleep either way, Nathan. You go back now to your little skinny lattes and your little hot buns
with oat milk. You've nailed him in one.
Sorry, Adrian, I meant.
No, you got it right first time.
No, it's you. No. Nathan's from the west of Ireland. He's tough.
Listen, your judgment. I've suddenly realised your judgment is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Enjoy tomorrow.
Ballina and Ballinadir.
Ballina, you're not a Ballina.
But they're all, any of the
that's where my mum is from. My mum is from Ballina.
I didn't realise you had Mayo roots.
My dad is from Ballinadir. See?
All right.
He's proper West of Ireland man.
Yeah. See.
We've Alan Quinlan outside the door making a lot of gestures, telling us to wrap this up. He's the quasi-producer.
He slept it out. Typical Quinny excuses.
If enjoy is the right word for tomorrow, enjoy it. We'll chat to you soon.
Yeah, I will enjoy it. Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Ronan O'Gara, live on the line from La Rochelle ahead of that game tomorrow. He's given us the fingers, so we got to get moving, and that's what we're going to do. Quick ad break. Alan Quinlan next.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Off the ball. Oh wow, this is aggressive. I've watched Off the Ball. I'm Scottish. I've seen on YouTube.
I met a South African last night and he was there. He knew that Dublin won 5 in a row because he watched us Off the Ball. He really, and he lives in Thailand.
I've watched Off the Ball on YouTube. They're good boys. We love you, and everywhere we follow. We absolutely love it.
Off the Ball. This is OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Saturdays. A completely blank canvas for you to do with as you please.
Can you collect my dress from dry cleaners? Sarah and Steve over tonight. Get wine. Also, downstairs bathroom needs attention.
They fill up fast Saturdays. But make sure you fill your boots with Paddy Power's Saturday Power Price, a super enhancement on a specific football treble every Saturday. Paddy Power sponsors the football show on Off the Ball. T's and C's apply. 18+ on Louis.net.
OTB AM.
12 minutes past 9 on this Friday morning. Quinny, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You
That's
were in a rush to get in.
Roger's put me to sleep there at the end, talking rubbish.
Well, he nailed it when he was saying that Nathan was like a latte, sort of skinny latte.
No, he just got confused.
No, he
meant
didn't.
to say
he was
Adrian
right
Barry.
First time around. We'd Warren Gatlin in with us during the week, and I'm sure people are aware of this at this point, and was chatting about the suspicion that he had that, not based on any evidence, he said himself at the time, that just a suspicion, a hunch that one of his players might have been doping. We've been in touch with the UK Anti-Doping Agency, who've told us that they're curtailed in their ability to comment during a pre-general election period as a state-connected body, and they'll not be offering any comment on what Warren Gatlin told Off the Ball. That's their stance on it this week. You'd some interesting stuff to say, Quinny, including that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that one way or the other.
Yeah, it's difficult, I think. Obviously, if you're coaching any team at any level and that situation arises, what do? Do you not pick the player based on a suspicion? Do you say it to somebody else? Did he alert somebody else? So yeah, it was a really kind of strange one. Obviously, you can't name the player because then you're in. It
just seemed to be like a hunch that he had, like almost that he would have admitted it.
Look, I've a hunch of some players in rugby that
have you?
Possibly
now,
yeah. So hunches.
Is it the hunch that everybody else has based on stuff, or is there something deeper?
No, I think...
let's be very careful here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you get me into trouble. I think you can always have hunches on certain people when the way they perform or the way they've... their condition has changed or their body shape has changed and stuff like that. And I probably have had a couple of debates not in a calm manner with Paul Kimmage in the last few years, probably over and back on a couple of articles we both did. And Paul has obviously he's done brilliant work in cycling to expose people who've cheated in the game, and you know, Lance Armstrong, that most high profile and stuff, and we're all against drugs in sport, and so I think I wouldn't say I've changed my mindset, but like probably my eyes have been opened a little bit more in recent years. That
would that include players close to home, or?
Yeah, it would, and it would and it wouldn't. I think I just realise more that the temptation is far greater now because of the financial reward. And I'm not saying that my generation was squeaky clean. All I ever said in the pieces over and back with Paul was that I hadn't seen it. And I can't say I have seen it if I haven't. I can only be honest to myself whether you believe me or not. And what I had seen was a group of players who worked incredibly hard and made small marginal gains each season. And when I say marginal gain, I mean your bench might have been 130 when you do the bench press test, and maybe after 12 months you might be 135, and that's a massive win. And we used to have really competitive slagging matches. Paul O'Connell was behind most of them, particularly with me, because if he was lifting more on the bench than me, and he was good at it. That, you know, a bit of banter around that, or deadlifts or squat jumps and all that kind of stuff. So, and you know, I'd seen people just train their socks off and put the effort and time in and make those marginal gains. Is
it something that you see increasing? Like, is that the?
I think the temptation is definitely increasing, and like I said, I haven't completely changed my mindset. What I tried to say at the time was I hadn't seen it. I'm sure it's there, and I'm sure that we're like the system here probably does need to probably, and there's been debates about this in recent times about maybe the school system and the temptation for younger players that there needs to be more stringent testing. But the IRFU actually have invested money outside of Sport Ireland to get more tests done. So the testing has increased over the years, the random testing, and I think I did the piece on South Africa before the World Cup, and it wasn't based on just a picture. I think it was based on maybe the evidence that's there if you Google it, that there's a lot of South African rugby players, and this is like any sort of scandal or any sort of situation. It's very unfair on the clean athletes in South Africa and all the clean rugby players and all the guys who get those marginal gains and do the things right. It's very unfair, and they feel aggrieved sometimes by it.
But that's why they should be outraged by it.
They are, and in fairness to South Africa, the testing is very, very stringent, and they do test in schools, and they do test a lot more than here. So maybe more testing needs to happen here, but I think there is a culture, and it's, you know, there's a lot of South African guys who've tested positive for drugs, and that unfortunately tarnishes other people and the sport in general there. And you know, so that it's a very kind of I can understand why people sometimes get angry that, you know, everybody will just jump on a kind of one particular argument and say, oh, there's loads of drugs in rugby, the clean ones. So I was a clean athlete, so that's where I kind of come defending the sport. But in recent years, I just think probably the more I've gone out of the game, I kind of go, the temptation is getting bigger, the financial reward, the opportunities for people in the sport, and the toll of the sport, really, you know. So it's a very, very complex, dangerous situation that probably, you know, needs to probably get better everywhere and have that zero tolerance policy around it. But there's a lot of good stuff that goes on and a lot of changes I'd seen through the start of my career to the end of my career, where there was more testing, there was random testing, there was out of season testing, there was, you know, so for Warren Gatland to say that, you know, we probably all can have our suspicions, and I suppose every rugby player can go look at someone and say, well, that person's gone a lot bigger or gone a lot fitter or playing incredibly well. So it's not always about anabolic steroids who put on muscle. It could be
slimming down,
anaerobic improvements. So in other words, like the EPO that you'll use in cycling, where is it for your oxygen intake, and that you can cycle faster and longer, and so maybe there's that's probably not as visual as the if you're looking at physical sides and say, well, these are kind of bodybuilder type bodies on rugby players.
It's a topic we're definitely going to go back to. It's great that he would open up that Pandora's box again and give us an opportunity to chat about it, so we will come back to it again. I know you're limited at time. The two, I suppose, main provinces that we would look at in terms of their capacity to win the Heineken Cup this season are Munster and Leinster, who are presumably separately going to easily dispatch their opponents this weekend. What's jumping out?
Well, I think you would imagine the way Leinster played against Connacht last week, an incredibly positive result. Not just winning in Galway and winning in the sports ground has been, a very tough place for any team to go, given the changes and the improvements Andy Friend and Connacht have made in his time there. But I think it was just a manner and the ruthlessness, the accuracy, the energy, and you're doing it with lots of young players and a lot of your frontliners missing, and you take so much positivity as a group and you kind of grow so much. So, they've kind of... It was a bit of a kind of a bright moment for them last Friday night, in the sense that, the future is bright, and here we are churning out more young players like Ronan Kelleher, Will Connors, Jimmy O'Brien, Hugo Keenan, these guys who are, probably have big futures in front of them with Leinster and Ireland, and they're probably the least active in the transfer market, if you like, at the end of each season now, because they're producing young players coming through who are exciting young players. Now, Europe is a different kettle of fish than Pro 14. It's just, there's no doubt about that. And Ospreys will find that out Munster will find out.
They're coming in at a dismal level.
And Leinster Benetton will be, there'll be no easy kind of touch.
What's a good, because there's no real point in getting into
the ins and outs in the teams.
What's a good outcome for Munster this season?
A good outcome for Munster is this season. Is well, some seasons you look at it and you say, well, they've got to get out of the quarterfinals. Anything less is not good enough, or maybe not even get to a semi-final. And they've done that in the last couple of seasons and punched above their weight at times. Edinburgh probably should have beaten them in that quarter-final last year. They've come up short because of probably squad depth and top quality at the last kind of 3 or 4. When you get to that level, just more depth and more quality. But they've done remarkably well, to be fair. This year, I think getting to a quarter-final is a big achievement, given Racing and Saracens are there. And so, it is the pool of death. I think for Munster, and they've got to make sure that they win their home games. I think if you win your home games, you're giving yourself a great shot. They're away against Ospreys, so you just think it's a must-win game. It's non-negotiable if they want to get out of this group. And that will kind of kickstart their campaign. Then they've got Racing at home next week, and, again, they're getting Racing. Who knows with the competition? Who's in good shape or who's in bad shape?
Like given that Saracens are going to be whatever they're going to be now in this.
And they're so it's a pool of death, and I think
it's not really the pool of death anymore, though, is it? If Saracens are
well, I'm not buying into this scenario of Saracens. I think nothing's really changed in a huge sense from that. They're going to have their English players are going to be very slow to come back into their system anyway. They're limited to the number of games they can play. They've already played 4 warm-up games, 6 or 7 at a World Cup, so a number of them have 7 or 8, 10 games played. So I think 30 is their limit with internationals and clubs. So Mark McCall, can he roll them out for 9 rounds of Europe right to the final? That's up in 19, 20 games, and then they have Gallagher Premiership and stuff. So it's kind of mixing and managing. But I think what they've done in Saracens,
they've spent
well, the depth of the squad and the quality of even some of the younger players that are less known. There's a lot of talented players there, and they proved that last week by beating Gloucester. I think I listened to him during the week saying that if we to go put this team out for Europe, I'd be very happy that they could do a job. Obviously, when you Farrells and Vunipola and Otojes and these guys come back into a team, they're a different beast altogether. But It'll be interesting to see how that happens. And, you know, for the French teams, for Racing, I had a chat with Mike Prendergast, and, you know, they had a number 12, 13 away at the World Cup as well. So it's a lot of the teams, and that's probably the key this weekend, is who can get that little bit of early momentum and get a good positive result and get up and running.
You in Monday?
I am.
Look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm doing Bath Ulster tomorrow, so and that's a really interesting
the
one.
The only place to catch Bath Ulster, Quinny.
You and me both, Quinny.
Yeah.
You and me both.
But I think it's interesting that Ulster have got to do a similar situation. I think they've Quins and Claremont in their group, and if they have aspirations of getting out of the group, they've got to get an away win, and probably tomorrow is the best time to do that, where Bath are probably, even though they had a very good win against Northampton last week, they've only 4 rounds of Gallagher Premiership played in England.
They haven't exactly set the world alight, Bath.
Yeah, Ulster were poor last week down. They were at moments down in Thomond Park, but they've got to be a lot better, and it's an opportunity for them. They either win there, they win in Quins, and then they win their home games. But I think for any of the Irish provinces, it's a minimum requirement. Well, particularly for Ulster, Munster, Leinster, with respect to Connacht, they haven't been in the competition year in, year out. But I'm looking forward to that one on Sunday against Montpellier.
Should be a good one.
They were really poor against Leinster last week, Connacht, but injury problems, Quinn Roux, Thornbury, Ultan Delan missing. I think Ultan Delan is going to be back, and the sports ground will be rocking on Sunday against Montpellier.
Very good, Quinny. Chat Monday.
Pleasure.
Enjoy the weekend. With the women's national team going very well, we'd heard from Amber Barrett a little bit earlier on. Here she is discussing the growth. She was on with Nathan last night discussing the growth of the women's game at a domestic level here.
Do you think opportunities are there for young girls in Ireland? Are we making enough opportunities for them?
Well, I can be honest with you, and since even I left Donegal to go to Dublin to play, there's definitely been a lot more teams and women's teams in Donegal that have started and are really building. And even my local club didn't have a women's team for years, and now they have an underage structure there. And their aspirations is that they want to go on to develop a women's team, and to have that in place now is great, because I didn't really have that when I was there. Of course, there was local teams that I could play with, but I played my women's football in Donegal with Lagan Harps, which it's obviously not in any way far away from me, but it was in my local town. I think that it is building in that sense, that you look at Beginner Cup, how much it has grown over the last couple of years. I think now they're nearly splitting it into 2 or 3 weekends now to facilitate the numbers that are going down. So it's looking at those things. It's definitely saying that things are improving, and they're going to keep improving, because I think the demand and the interest in women's football in Ireland, has it's skyrocketed in the last couple of years, and those little things will help. And I know that the FA are going to do their best then to facilitate and obviously to develop as well. So in that case, it's not going to happen overnight, but I can definitely see an improvement there.
You were very keen to get the fact that you're commentating on the rugby this weekend there.
I was just mentioning we've got Bath Ulster tomorrow, 1 o'clock, and then we got Leinster Benetton. Though I'm not fully comfortable with everyone just agreeing that we'll all call them Benetton and scrapping the Treviso. That's a dangerous precedent.
Who are you on with?
Do we need another? Maybe.
Nobody on.
No, we will. Yeah, don't worry.
We will.
Johnny Murphy.
All right. Why will you keep that so close to your chest? It's like 90% in sort of thing. Now that he's 100%.
And then we have Andy Dunn and Liam Toland with Neil Tracy live from the RDS for the afternoon.
Jeez, that'll be a belter.
And, you expect Leinster to win. Do you know why I expect Leinster to win? Matt Williams' article this afternoon. There's only 2 teams in Europe, I think we can agree. Leinster's form has been nothing short of awesome. Saracens at full strength are awesome.
Both fair points.
Matt is saying that nobody's going to come from the outside. There will be no bolter winning this Champions Cup this year. It's going to be Leinster.
Yeah, what is a bolter?
It'll be Leinster, and if Saracens get to April and they're safe in the Premiership,
it's possible to look. If you look at Saracens' record in the tournament, it's impossible to suggest that anybody but Saracens is going to win it. Winners, reigning champions, obviously. Quarterfinals before that. Before that, winners. Before that, winners. Before that, semi-finals. Before that, final. Before that, semi-finals. And they're not losing.
But Leinster's form over the last decade is pretty much the exact same.
Saracens to lose. Derek on Facebook saying the only player getting close to the Danish match is Alan Brown, as he was name-checked by Mick. Byrne did more than Hendrick, and as for a lot of years last night in the cup final, and Parrott would be more dangerous to the Danes than McGoldrick. Pell Star says Leo Connor and Derek Williams from Waterford. Shawnee Maguire came through the Waterford Academy, and Zach
Bizzetti scored for the 21s yesterday.
Waterford player scored for the 21s yesterday. Someday for Waterford football, says Pell Star, who might just be John O'Shea. And Rob on YouTube says the Sterling Gomez incident broke online before Southgate addressed it. It was always going to be a story once it happened. Sweeping it under the carpet wasn't an option, which was absolutely 100% not what we were saying. It wasn't about sweeping it under the carpet. Actually, it was the very opposite as far as I was concerned, which was to actually properly deal with it, which is not just to, I think, throw your player under the bus by ditching him out of the squad.
No, as England manager, I think he would be well aware it was always going to get out. It's, do you then go nuclear on it, or do you actually just play it down with the stock? Look, these things happen.
Go with the stock.
Raheem's apologised, Joe's accepted, we all move on.
Right, a reminder, as we've been mentioning, tomorrow from 1 o'clock, Bath against Ulster on Off the Ball Live, and it'll be followed by Leinster against Benetton with our full main commentary team on that game from 3:15. That's on Saturday. You can podcast this show in full. It's fully time-stamped, so you can flick through it and get to exactly what you want, a la carte. So you can check that out up on offtheball.com. We had John O'Shea on a bit earlier, Ronan O'Gara and Alan Quinlan as well. We're also up on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there, and you can Chromecast that or get Off the Ball on your smart TV or Apple TV. We've just passed 80,000 subscriptions, so don't miss out on the fun over there. And Off the Ball Sports Radio live all day, every day on the Go Loud app. OTB AM back on Monday live from 7:30. Nathan, you enjoy your weekend.
Well, you're going to London, I hear.
Yes, that is correct. I'm off to see Jules Holland.
Wow. You love a bit of Jules Holland.
Royal Albert Hall. Went to see the 25th anniversary show there, but that wasn't really Jules Holland. That was the Jules Holland live show. This is actually Jules Holland himself.
And the Rhythm and Blues Orchestra.
I'm assuming so. Royal Albert Hall.
I've been to see them, all right, yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's a great venue, is it?
Unbelievable setting. It's we were there. There was like Van Morrison. There was like Paul Weller played. There was like a bunch of Pearl Jam played. It was class. And I'd never been to the Royal Albert Hall before that. It's maybe the finest venue I've ever been in.
Right, I've never been.
Bringing Off the Ball over there is now a lifetime ambition.
Playing the Royal Albert Hall.
We should go over and play the Royal Albert Hall. It would genuinely.
We should invade and take over the Royal Albert Hall for a night.
I think there'd be plenty of audience for Off the Ball.
100%.
Yeah. So if anybody
well,
from
do
Royal
it.
Albert Hall,
While you're over there, maybe put the feelers out.
But we're getting away from the kids for the weekend.
Oof.
I mean,
wow.
I'm looking forward to Jules. I'm looking forward to London. But we'll have no.
I'm just looking forward to sleep in.
This, but there will be no kids for the weekend.
That's glorious.
We don't tend to do it that often.
Jealous.
We have other friends and relations who seem to do it
all the time. I hate those people.
Do you do it much?
Not anymore. You see, 3 is a killer. When we had 2, we got into a good routine.
And probably
3,
the age
3 it's over.
Really?
Game over. Nobody wants to mind 3 kids, Adrian.
Yeah. So that's the plan. Very much looking forward to that. I do want to let you know as well that ESPN Game Day is going to be broadcasting live from the Woolshed on Saturday from 3:30. This is a huge deal, Nathan. It's obviously ahead of the Aer Lingus College Series coming here on August 29th, 2020 for Notre Dame and Navy. The two teams are playing this weekend, and to get a bit of a flavour to 2 million people viewing on ESPN over the weekend, they've sent a crew over to go live to the Woolshed on Saturday afternoon to get a bit of a sense of what's going on. So organisers are encouraging the Irish audience to get down there, watch the game, take it in, have an opportunity to be on ESPN, show your sign. I don't know if this is something you're familiar with, but on
I've seen it.
Game Day, they get people to write up your sign of your message to love you, mum, or whatever it might be. Sometimes maybe a little bit edgier than that. So an opportunity to make up your sign.
Not too edgy though, I imagine.
They're all not too edgy. They're also encouraging people to put on your Irish jersey, whether it be rugby or football or whatever. Throw on your GA jersey.
Put on the green jersey.
Get on any sort of a jersey and get yourself down. You can see the full details there. It's the Woolshed Bar and Grill. It's tomorrow. It's from 3:30. It's ESPN College Game Day. It's going to be fully live from broadcasting directly into College Game Day. Frequently they'll do dips over to Afghanistan or to Iran or whatever it might be. To the forces to do a bit of a dip in. So it's forces of a different kind, I can well imagine. Be on your best behaviour. It's the only thing we ask. Have a bit of cop on. Get down and enjoy yourself. Just don't be that guy or that girl.
Don't go viral.
Yeah. So that's it. You can check out. We'll have more details on that coming across the Off the Ball social channels over the afternoon. So stay tuned to @OffTheBall on Twitter to get more details on that. That is it from us for them. What are you up to for the weekend apart from commentary tomorrow?
Then I'll be preparing myself for the big one. Commentary Monday night, Ireland, Denmark. Myself and Damien Delaney.
Right.
Be buzzing for that.
You'll be doing nothing then, enjoying yourself.
Buzzing for that.
On Monday. Right, look forward to it. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, Willie Nathan. I hope I didn't abuse you too much, and if I did, I apologise for it. You will definitely be back. 9:34. Good morning.
OTB AM. This is OTB